Hello. So this is Jerome Jacinto. He's my friend, and I love his art. And we're going to talk a little bit about his art and what he does. And then we're going to just draw, just like a good old stream. So let me find his gallery on Twitter. Talk a bit about
How
yourself,
about
Jerome.
okay. Well, I guess I could start with my professional background. Um, okay, let's start with my notable works. I worked on this little RTS game called Tooth and Tail. It's a game. Mhm. It's basically Redwall set in the Russian Revolution, something like that.
Awesome.
And the other game I worked on is this digital board game done developed in Australia called Armello. I did some of the animated cards you can see in game, and the current project I'm working on is called Ghost of a Tale. If you guys know what the movie Secret of Nim is, it's basically that, and it's basically a combination of Secret of Nim and Redwall. If you're a fan of those two, yeah, you're gonna like that game.
Oh yeah. I'm a diehard fan of that stuff.
Yeah,
I
and
just
I'm also a
love
fan
your
of
work.
the two IPs.
Yeah. This is some of
So
Jerome's work. It's beautiful. My favorite piece was one that you posted on Twitter. It was like a group of, I don't know, scavengers who found a chest of gold. And
yeah, that
I'm
one.
trying to find it. Is it on your DeviantArt?
No, I haven't updated my DeviantArt for a very long time.
I'll find it on your
Actually,
Twitter feed.
no, it's in my ArtStation account.
Okay, what's your art station?
Uh, yeah, can I post a link on
You can.
YouTube?
Yeah, you can. Oh no, I don't
Okay.
think you can. No. You can just
Okay.
spell it out for me.
Yeah. No, I'll just send the link over at Discord.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Ghost of a Tale looks beautiful.
Hell yeah. Yeah,
It's
I
so
can agree. That's
pretty.
definitely beautiful. Actually, one of the main reasons why it looks the way it is because the the creator of the game is actually industry veteran who worked for DreamWorks since I think he started with Prince of Egypt up to Despicable Me.
Oh.
So he has a very strong sense of good art direction.
And you were in charge of concept art and pre-production, sketching, all of that.
No.
Well,
No, he's the
head.
guy who's did pretty much of concept art. What I did for Ghost of a Tale is the NPC portraits and the to the illustrations in the game and the main poster of the game, which isn't still publicized.
Oh, okay. We're not allowed to look at it.
Oh, I very much like to show that, but
you're not allowed yet. Yeah.
the director's got to call on that.
Yeah. I just love this one. I love this one. I love your control over the wash. I love the little white like speckles. I'm not sure if that's snow or dust, but it's just so refreshing. Just the refreshing amount of neutral white just all over and really desaturated if you think about it. But those notes of red and orange they're desaturated, they're pretty gray, but they read as so high saturation, but they're not. And that's what we go for, the midtones.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't actually have to resort to using super high saturation, which is something you used to do in your work a lot. But like the more your color range matured, the more you started using such subtle, like there's such tease drawn colors and saturation. It's such a
Uh-huh.
tease, and I love how it just pops, and you know how to make it. You know how to create the environment as being undersaturated to make the colors really stand out, to make it all about this red and this orange. And the blue
Mm-hmm.
is practically gray in his shirt, and the white, that neutral tone. This is my favorite piece, and
Ah,
I'm not sure what they found. It wasn't a treasure that they found. It was like a loot, or they found some food and they're
uh,
celebrating.
ampoules of ale.
Ale, okay. I love
Yeah.
that.
Actually, yeah, there's a story behind this.
Uh huh.
If you can see in the progress image, okay. First of all, the white stuff is actually snow.
Snow, okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay. So this is actually set in the desert, and it's supposed to be, or originally it's supposed to be set in the something like Sahara Desert,
Mm-hmm.
but um, th- uh, we decided to change just the setting. It's something like the Gobi Desert where it snows, because it's more of a practical issue with the fact that
Mm-hmm.
liquids tend to dry very quickly
Mm-hmm.
in very arid areas. So
Mm-hmm.
um, it's a logical change for us
Mm-hmm.
to switch to an environment such as the Gobi Desert. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
and I would also like to add,
Sure.
this is actually a two-person effort.
Mm-hmm.
There, um, uh, I'm working with a guy who's doing all the writing
Mm-hmm.
and basically the brain behind these images.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I always thought the narrative power is so strong. You know, it's a real story. Everything has a gesture and emotion and has personalities, and
Mm.
it was one of something I
Uh,
admired the most out of this. Yeah, go on.
sorry, was that?
Sorry, go on. Go ahead. I was just commenting.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
go ahead. Oh, sorry, you were saying that the narrative and all of that. Oh, I think we disconnected.
Nope.
Hello? No? Okay. Sorry, I was saying continue. I was saying go ahead with your thoughts. I
Oh,
just
okay. Sorry,
interrupted you.
sorry.
Yeah, I threw off your
Yeah,
stream of thought. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. Basically, I'm just saying that I don't want to take the credit
Mm-hmm.
for this image. All the credit, because like I said, this is a two-person effort. Someone half of the idea of this image belongs to the brain of some other person.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, a good friend of mine who's pretty good with world building
Mm-hmm.
and a writer. Yeah, so
Awesome.
it's a joint effort.
Great. So he wrote
Also,
it and you
I'm not
painted it?
not actually wrote it.
Dro-
Basically,
mm-hmm.
to summarize what I'm going to try to say, where we are sort of working on a universe,
Mm-hmm.
something similar to Redwall, but set in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the one who's building everything for me to make concept art out of.
So he wrote
Also,
it and you
I'm not,
painted it?
and
Uh-huh.
here's and here's another one set in the same universe. Here's the Discord link.
I'm just gonna exit Skype. Wow, that's beautiful.
Uh,
Oh, that's so pretty. And this is what kind of animal is this?
it's it's a dick. It's pronounced as dick.
Dick pic.
Dik. Yes, I'm serious. It's pronounced as
Bid
dick,
bid
and it's spelled as
bid.
dick.
Dick pic.
It's I, I, I think it's the tiniest species of antelope
Oh yeah, because it
in
reminded
the
me of
entire world.
antelope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really really nice. And you illustrated this one as well, like from scratch. So what everyone's concern is, did you draw these from scratch, or did someone else draw them for you and then you finish them? You obviously drew them from scratch, right?
Yeah, I draw them from scratch.
That's awesome. So is that posing with Portrait Studio there, or no?
Which one?
The spreadsheet that
Oh,
you have.
yes, the one at the bottom. Yes, that's Portrait Studio.
Oh wow, that's so cool. I love the fabric
Oh, you
settings
have
that
no
you
idea
have.
how useful that application is.
Oh yeah, I mean like that. It was born out of frustration, so it has to be useful. Frustration is the fuel of Portrait Studio. I love this stuff. I really wanted to show off your sketches. I love them. I love everything about them. I'm trying to see if they can even see everything because I'm trying to figure out where the halfway point of the stream is. Okay. So I love these. I love the gesture. It's like a dancer kind of sword dagger dude. And it's a ferret, and you have like this long body, and you can show off even more gesture because the body's so long. So I love that.
Which one are you?
I'm looking at your Twitter feed. You know what I can do?
Twitter,
Instead of you having a delayed image, I'm going to share my screen on the Google Hangout link. That way you can
Okay.
see me live. Yeah. So can you see me on the Google Hangout? So everything that you look at, don't look at our stream. You can just look straight at our. You can even close the stream and close Chrome, because that might slow you down. So you can just keep, just looking at my screen share. You can see everything I see.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
So this is what I'm talking about. Dick.
Oh, that one.
Dick. Dick Mick. This stuff I love. I love your line control. It's messy, but it's efficient. I love that. I love the little brush strokes you have. Your work reminds me of a lot of this. Oh gosh, what's his name? He draws all these dwarves and stuff on Instagram. I've talked about him before. I don't know why his name has completely escaped me.
Is it Karl Kopinski?
No. I cannot believe I've forgotten his name. He just wrote something called Tane. It's a story. I'm just gonna get it. Nope. Evan Mehlamundsen. Okay. Evan Mehlamundsen.
Yes.
Yeah, don't you love his work?
Evan Amundsen,
Yeah.
Yeah, so good.
No, I love what he does with his lines. They're clean, but he manages to keep them messy. One of my most favorite of his pieces, so this is what I'm talking about, like you have lines similar to that. That's some of the line work that I aim at sometimes. But he also has some shading in there. It's hard to know when to shade and when to use the line, and so he just has a good idea of all of that. Like he's done it for so long. So this kind of stuff. This is kind of what your work reminds me of, or is it?
I see.
Yeah, and this. Yeah. So what are you drawing today? What is there anything that you're personal stuff, or obviously not commercial stuff, or else you wouldn't stream it?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think I'll probably do some character stuff since that's where my brain is at the moment.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, and before we start, I'd like to add that the artist that inspired me to work a lot on my line art is a Korean artist called Kim Jung-gi.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard of him?
Yeah, of course. Everyone has heard of him. Yeah. Yeah, he's really good. Do you try to freehand your perspective or like him, or do you still do planning lines and stuff? Because I don't see many planning lines. I think you hide them or turn off the layer, right? Or do you just go straight in?
No, I actually do a lot of planning.
Okay.
But yeah, I do it on another layer. But for perspective, I learned from Kim Jung-gi to use a cube instead of projection lines because well, that's a personal thing for me because I don't like dealing with so much lines on my canvas.
I love what you're doing. I think whatever it is, you have such good control over it. And the space right here, and how unawkward you've managed to marry like the animal anatomy. And Abu raised a question of furries earlier, and he's like, yeah, it's been such a movement. It's been such a like a big movement that it's hard nowadays to draw like an animal combination, like animal character Redwall style or Nim style without being called a furry. I used to love
Oh yeah,
drawing
I
that,
can relate.
and
Yeah.
I stopped drawing that because I was like, people are starting to associate me with like that stuff, and no offense, you know, I don't know how to kink shame or anything, but still, I just, it came first, you know, Redwall came first, all of that came
Yeah,
first, and a
exactly.
stupid movement
Uh-huh.
like that isn't gonna change that. I don't know how old you are, but when I was growing up, Redwall was all I watched. I loved everything about it, like the mysticism and the
Mm.
way he found his sword and the way he found his shield and the riddles and that guy who's haunted by the image of Matthias, the evil rat. I forget what his name is. I just grew up on that stuff, so I've always had that desire to kind of marry those two anatomies together, but I stopped doing it because I was so
Yeah, because
worried about being called a
yeah,
furry. That was like two
yeah,
years
but
ago or something.
uh, yeah, regarding that, the advice I would give to a person who has that kind of concern is if you want to work on doing anthropomorphic animal characters,
Mm-hmm.
the one thing you need to go for first and foremost is
Mm-hmm.
your target market should be the mainstream market.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Uh, not the people that like your work,
Mm-hmm.
because
Okay.
yeah, um, because when you're catering to the small space of people that like your like your work, there
Yeah.
tends to be a creative vacuum that happens.
Yeah.
Uh, something that will hamper your work and long term.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
The way I
Apart
see
from
it
that,
is like some of those people start it just for the wide audience. They don't start it because there's an inward call to draw like
uh,
that or an inner desire
mhm,
from like childhood that's ingrained in you. So
mhm,
they only draw that because of the audience available to it. Some do it only because of the job. But then there's people like
uh-huh.
us who just love seeing animals wearing clothing. And that's
Yeah.
exactly, and then it's like kind of the opposite of what they do because usually it's so kinky and it's all about nudity and some sort of like other thing, but us it's like full worlds, you know, it's like a full high fantasy, and Redwall
Yeah,
is
yeah.
high fantasy, so it's challenging to know where to leave the animal anatomy, where to dress it, how to dress it, which animal to choose for which
Uh-huh.
biome. There's so much thought that goes into that, and I want to like change that atmosphere as much as possible, which is why I love artists like you because you've managed to capture it, even the color, even the choices of color and your bold midtones. I just love all of that, and I just want to like keep that out, keep that in
Mhm,
discussion and dialogue.
mm, thanks.
You're welcome.
Oh, regarding Redwall,
Mm-hmm.
regarding Redwall, I actually discovered Redwall in my late 20s.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
just have
I
always loved
actually
Redwall.
I never actually know about the Redwall series. It happened when I was looking for window shopping in a bookstore. Then
Mm-hmm.
I saw the cover of Martin the Warrior,
Yeah. Oh,
and I thought, holy shit, this is so badass.
I know.
So I bought the book just because I thought the cover was so badass,
Yeah.
and it's history from there.
I love all of that stuff, Martin the Warrior. I was just God, the mystery, and I'm such a nerd. Like I want to just just keep talking about it. And like the mysticism and the legend and how he died. I just love everything about Redwall.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the doorway, a story, like the gateway drug into Lord of the Rings for me. Which is why it's
Oh,
got like such a
okay.
sacred role in my art, and I love seeing that stuff.
Hmm.
But like the show was really what got me as a kid because I wasn't reading much back then, so it was the show that really captured me the most. Um,
The animated series.
yeah, the animated series used to come on
Yeah.
Teletoon in Canada. That was the stuff that got me the most.
Mm.
So I'm just
Okay.
putting up your pictures so everyone can see.
Okay.
You know, just your gallery, and then we can start sketching. So
Okay.
image
Oh,
capture.
oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay, since we ended the discussion on Redwall,
Mm-hmm.
why don't I start doing red wally stuff?
I'm just going to try to fit this image somehow, somewhere. This is a jigsaw puzzle right now. Okay, I think that's good. I don't want to hide the really pretty drawing. Okay, I think that's good. No, this is nicer. Okay, so can everybody see this okay? Does everyone see the images and all of that? Yeah, everyone should be good. I'm going to just close this and pop it out one more time. And then we can sketch. I really want to, what's it called? Draw red wall, but I don't think I even compare to your level of connection with all of that. So I'm just gonna do my own thing. Don't judge me. Don't compare my skill to his because I am not that good. So I'm just gonna do my own thing.
No, of course. No, of course not.
No, I'm serious. I'm so intimidated by you. 1 second.
No, I enjoy seeing different interpretations of the red wall universe. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm looking forward to actually seeing how you do that.
Yeah, I'm just doing some silly little sketches here to stretch my hands. I noticed that, I don't know if you noticed this too, but I noticed that if I don't stretch, if I don't just draw dumb sketches, I use up all my inspiration energy on just the dumb sketch, the first dumb sketch that I do of the evening, and then by the time I get to the good sketch, I've used all my inspiration, and I have a good idea that I use on my stretch sketch. And then I hate that idea by the time I'm done failing at it with the first sketch. But that first sketch, which is the sucky one that you have to do, the doorway sucky sketch to get into a good session. Because they say if you can last 7 minutes or something, or 2 minutes, I don't know, doing a really dumb task, even a task you really love but you're doing really bad at it, you just have to get through that first really awkward minute or two of the drawing session before your pictures start to look good. So I've been meaning to talk to another artist about this because I don't even know how to get past it. I kind of just have all these ideas and I want to draw them, but I end up just using all of my energy on, all my day energy or patience on the dumb doorway sketch, and I'm not even sure what I'm saying. I don't know if anyone understands what I'm saying. Does anyone else experience this?
I definitely understand what you're saying. The first advice I'm gonna give you, which is bad, is play video games.
Yeah,
No,
I know.
don't do that.
I don't play enough.
Play play Warframe or something. No. But seriously, that's actually a very broad thing to give advice for. But how do I?
Yeah, it's you have to be patient enough. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This advice actually I got from what's the name again? This guy on YouTube. Hang on. Oh no, it's not him, but the artist is interviewing. This guy, before he draws anything, he just paints faces of Akuma from Street Fighter.
All the time?
Yeah, before he starts anything serious. That's his gateway.
His gateway shit.
So I
think
think I think the idea behind that is you first do a quick output of your comfort zone, which is Akuma for him.
So it's always Akuma, he's always just drawing Akuma.
Yeah, just
that's
a
so
portrait
funny.
of Akuma.
That's hilarious. It's just always drawing Akuma. That's fucking hilarious. Just as a comfort zone, that's his go-to comfort. Doesn't Akuma mean evil? Yeah, I think it does.
I think it's a demon for demon for Japanese. I think.
Yeah. So I don't know. Okay. I don't know what my gateway sketch used to be an eye, but I stopped doing that because I was realizing I was line dependent, and that was years ago. My gateway drawing, but I don't know what it is anymore. I just want to go straight into the idea that's been killing me. Lately, I've been meaning to draw girls with guns that are also elves. Because I don't want to keep drawing the fantasy realm. I kind of want to draw just girls with guns. But I want to go jump straight into that. And I know that if I do, I'm going to hate this idea because I jumped straight into it and I didn't let myself stretch a bit. What's your gateway drawing like topic? Is it just squiggles?
Since we're working on this project I mentioned a while ago, the whole Red Bull like universe thing, my gateway would be doing character concepts.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you draw like the cube of the space the character is gonna occupy?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's great. It's like drawing the little crosshair and then drawing the line out of it on the ground. You kind of get all the axes on considered, and you kind of decide how much of the ground is rotated. So if you're trying to draw a character from like high view, you see more of the X, and then that way you know that the legs of the character have to be small. But if you're drawing a character that's completely flattened on the ground, just like solid on the ground, you flatten the X and he's just standing, but you see some of the top of the foot. So that's something I do, but I just stopped doing it because I thought I could just eyeball the rest of my perspective. And you could use like art dice, like sexy dice, but it tells you stupid stuff to draw. That's
What's
true.
Art dice?
I don't know. Like it's just like dice, but it's a weird combination of the results of the dice throw. So I don't know if it's actual dice or it's something like a generator, but it tells you apple warrior, like an apple that is also a spear guardian or something like that. So you draw an apple and then it's kind of like your gateway sucky drawing. What's other people's gateway sucky drawings? Does anyone have one of those? I think of Akuma's in Ladybug. What's Ladybug? Like a game? My portal to my art library in my head is a cartoon OC character that I render as round as possible. After that, it flows. Oh, okay. Hi, Huningbo. Super frustrated, my dudes. My drawings always look flat. What do you have for that? What do you have to say for people whose drawings feel flat?
Me?
Yeah. Do you have any advice for people who have flat drawings?
Define flat.
Because we'd have to see his art.
Because when you say flat, for me, a flat drawing is something that doesn't look it exists. That doesn't look either it exists in the three-dimensional world, or it doesn't, or the subject itself doesn't look three-dimensional. So the advice I'm actually gonna give someone if they have that kind of problem is the same lessons I learned from you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Form studies.
Form studies, yeah. They're just so great. Yeah. They saved my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you have no idea how much that improved my work.
I'm so happy. I'm so honored. Yeah. Form studies are like, we're all in a coma, in like this flat world coma. And then we do a form study and suddenly everything just pops, everything just inflates. And everything that you draw from then on is going to be on a whole different realm because you've added an extra dimension you have to be drawing. So it is hard. There's that sucky initial curve. But if you're already well into your drawing career and you just discovered form studies, you improve so much faster because you've got you already have an idea of the two dimensions you've been drawing them so well. But and then you add that third dimension that's very easy to draw, so the far side of an arm or the far side of a torso or the rest of the shirt as it wraps around a body. But students that are just still early on, they're so lucky because they don't have to undo everything they've learned so far. They don't have to rewrite their brains to be three-dimensional like we had when we learned our 3D later. They're in on it. They get to build really, really clean habits early on. So I kind of envy that they're still early in their careers. Like there's a lot of stuff that I have that I want to work on. That I wish I had discovered form studies way earlier. But it's better. Better late than never kind of deal.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry.
But then, yeah, I guess you could take solace on the fact that you're helping a lot of people now
Yeah,
that you have this knowledge,
yeah.
even though you got that late.
That's true. Yeah, it's because I always say it's because of the mistakes I made that I can articulate the mistake itself and describe it for people so that they
Uh-huh.
don't make the same mistakes. So I'm grateful that I never had any resources growing up. Like all I had were very, very limited resources that I had to make the most of
Mhm.
because it means now that I get
Mhm.
to,
Mhm.
be able to give word to what it is, all those frustrations. I notice a lot of people have an issue with
Grow,
ellipses
yeah,
on cylinder forms, Tommy says.
ellipses on cylinder form.
So you mean just drawing like circles? Like I for my private students, all I tell them to do is just draw circles. I tell them for
Uh,
homework you have to draw 1,000 circles, and they have to hand in every last circle. And I make them work the circles from left to right and down so that we assess the very first number one circle they drew and the 1,000th circle. And usually by the end of it, your circles are look really really great. You find it comfortable, and it's all about learning how to like handle your tablet, what the tilt of your tablet is. You kind of learn yourself when you draw these circles, and you learn about speed and hand weight and how fast you're supposed to be moving your brush and all of that. So
mhm.
that's my advice. Is I don't think people out there think that their skill in drawing a circle is a given, and they don't realize that you have to practice everything. You even have to practice single lines that you're drawing so you can have a better relationship, especially if a sketch artist is your desire, like your dream. You have to learn exactly what kind of line speaks to you, how fast it needs to be, when to pick up the brush, what kind of taper you like. So people who have problems with that kind of stuff, I just suggest you just draw circles, draw the basic stuff, figure out if there's a wrinkle in your ability to even draw a line. Sorry, I went into teacher mode. I'm so sorry.
No, no problem, no
It
problem.
was
It's your
about
stream after all.
no, not at all. It's everyone's stream. They chop the shape at the edge instead of showing the curve tightening. You didn't assign this to me. I think your lines are really good. Honing Ball says, as a photographer, I had to make thousands of pictures of simple blocks in black and white to understand form and dimension. Then I started drawing again, and it was boom. Yeah, it's beautiful. You can't really force someone to have a revelation. They just have to do it on their own. It's so crazy. As a teacher, you have to be able to just
Yeah,
let go of that.
yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Back then, before I discovered your form study videos,
Mm-hmm.
I already had a grasp of how to project an image in a subject in 3D, but not as good as after I discovered your videos.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yes, like you said, you just have to jump into it.
Yeah, you
But the
just
thing
have
is,
to. Mm-hmm.
no one taught me how to project an object in a three-dimensional space. I had to make lots of experiments, trial and errors for me
Mm-hmm.
to do that.
And was it at first? Were you trying to figure it out with lines, or were you trying to figure it out with blocks? Were you trying to just render it?
Ah, yeah,
That's
lines,
yeah,
line
line.
dependency.
Yeah, because it's like there's two big ones. There's two big
Mhm.
lessons you have to learn in order to get really good. You gotta learn how to do forms and learn the z-axis, and you gotta drop your lines. So if if you're trying one, it's good because at least you're trying one, but you won't really get the benefit of one unless you try the other. And it's the two
Yes.
hardest lessons I've ever had to teach any student to let go of their lines. They're in like really, really scary territory because you jump in feet first when you let go of your lines and you're like, what the heck is
Hmm.
left for me to define the negative and positive space? Um, yeah, it's cool that, artists like you had that problem and then you just shaking it off is why your art just did a massive jump recently. Like it's just a
Uh-huh.
humongous jump in your work. It's like the difference between night and day, and you owe that to
Yes, I'd agree.
yeah, you owe it to just forms, to just stupid little gray blocks that don't do anything. They have no creative force, but for some reason, for some really annoying reason, and me trying to convince people because they're such ugly gray blocks, but for some really annoying reason, it's the difference between night and day in your work. and it's like my
Oh,
role to tell
hang on.
people.
My mic is a little loud. Hang on. How do I
Um,
change that? Someone in the chat said my mic is a little loud.
is it? That might be me. It's not you. It might be me. But go ahead and say something.
Hello? Hello?
Is he better now, guys? Just go ahead and keep saying stuff. Yeah, it's really hard for me to figure out what the levels are between everything because there's OBS that controls volume, and then there's Hangout that controls volume, and then there's the volume of everyone's mic, and then there's everyone's computer volume if they're listening, and I don't know if it's one person having a mic problem or everyone having a mic problem. And then there's YouTube volume, so
Yeah.
it's just a trial and
I'll
error.
try changing my microphone level.
No, you don't have to change anything. It's me, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Everyone says you sound perfect, so. Yeah.
Okay, how about now?
Yeah, I think you sound good now. I love your drawing. I'm so jealous. I'm gonna try to copy him. Okay, he's got like a scarf, and then he's got a. I'm just gonna copy you shamelessly. And he's got a cute little short sleeve. I like gauntlets. I really love drawing gauntlets, but I have no idea what exactly a gauntlet is. It's like a glove, right?
Oh, yeah. Arm guard, forearm guard.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I think. Gauntlets are actually my weakness. I like drawing greaves, chest armor, but not the arm guards, the gauntlets.
Oh yeah.
Oh, regarding the current topic, form studies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Initially, I found it incredibly boring
Yeah.
when I started it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone complains about it.
But when I applied the scientific calculation of lighting in those form studies, that's when everything clicked.
Yeah. Because
it's
making you think about surface areas, and most importantly, it makes you think about the direction of the light source, which is something you probably never asked before. Yeah.
Yeah. Specifically in my case, the one thing that I got addicted to with regards to form studies is ambient occlusion. I love that stuff.
Yeah, the bounce light and diffusing lights and finding midtones that stretch long periods, and not necessarily having a line of bounce light, but just diffusing the shadow enough that only the edges are really carrying the read, which is what we want to do with clothing, with what we want to do with portraits and everything like that. So, see, guys, I was right. You guys better listen to me. You guys better do your form studies. This is proof. This is absolute proof if this works. I agree with this. I am working on a portrait without lines, and with reference in my art, it looks like it's been done by another person. Yeah. I mean, it's good to use lines to help you create concepts really quickly, but it's not good to depend on them for the only way you render something. But here we are drawing with lines. So I guess I understand why a student might feel confused because of what we're doing. They see everyone drawing so well, and beginners really have it, like artists they aspire to, and they see them drawing with lines, and they're like, okay, I'm just going to do the same thing they're doing. They don't realize there's a whole backdrop of like study that they did in order to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they just assume that it'll just work for them too, and it's not like that. And a lot of people like listening are like that right now. A lot of people assume that they can just open up a Photoshop and just sketch what they want, but there's a lot of stuff that we're seeing that we're not drawing not because we're gods and we don't need to do sketch lines. Obviously I need to draw some cubes now, but because we've done it for so long, you can see the cube, and Jerome drew a cube, so remember that you still have the form study haunting you, so just get it out of the way. It just takes a couple months, really. I mean, how long did you draw form studies for before it clicked everything?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I started watching your videos early last year, and it all
Oh.
clicked within a month or two, I think,
Mhm.
because I did nothing but form studies.
That's good. That's good. Did you start off with cubes, or did you do um, spheres, or was it just like
Hmm.
polygons?
Hang on. Let me look at my very first form study.
Yay, we get to see.
Yeah, it's somewhere here. It's, hang
Ista paid an actor just to teach us how important form studies are.
on.
Jerome, are you an actor?
No,
No.
I'm not
Uh,
an actor.
Honing Ball says 3 years ago I found papercraft pictures. I loved it. I wanted to draw it and I failed. Why can't I draw these simple forms? And then I studied them and it was a breakthrough. Yeah, it's awesome.
Awesome.
Like everyone has a breakthrough story when it came to like drawing stuff three dimensionally. I love that.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I think this is the very first. Oh wait, hang
I'm not
on.
sure.
I think this is the very first form study I did. So that Discord.
There's no music. I'm so sorry, guys, because I want to upload this later. So feel free to play your own music. But I can't play music because I'd like to upload it on my channel. And I'll get damaged. I'll get punched by YouTube if I do. With music. They'll break my knees. They'll what is it? They'll kneecap me? What is it? Sorry, that's really morbid. Okay, this is his first form study. Awesome, it's a landscape form study.
I think it is my first form study because the file name is form study number 1.
Form studies one.
It's probably
Yeah,
not, but this is the earliest I could find.
it's good.
Uh,
Oh yeah, Jerome,
and,
I
yeah.
kept putting, I don't know, for some reason, I just kept putting off inviting you to the Discord that we have. I don't know why. I was just, every day, oh yeah, don't
Oh
forget
yeah.
to invite Jerome. Don't forget to invite
Oh.
Jerome.
I actually was in the Discord,
What?
but
Oh.
I got kicked because I
Oh,
never talk.
inactivity. Oh. God. How long ago was this? Before we used to prune like every day. Now we don't prune as
Last year I
much.
think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now
Uh,
we don't prune
I
as
think it was
much.
last year.
Yeah. Hello, Alyssa. By the way, I didn't say hello to everybody. Hello, Nika. Hello, Andy. Hello, GM. Hello. I don't know how to make form studies interesting, let alone tell if I'm doing it right. But that's the point, is that you're supposed to get rid of the creative pressure. It's not supposed to be a creative exploration of yourself. It's not supposed to be that. The point is that you're just supposed to be doing forms. That's it. You're just, without any creative pressure, you're trying to render something in space. You carry that later for when it's time to be creative. So you went for like a really big nose. You know which I really love that inspired me a lot? Despero. You know, the big ears? Oh gosh. I love that.
Oh yeah,
They
that's
give him
it's
like a
it's
really humongous ears. But they give him a tiny body to balance it out.
that's an old CG movie, right?
Yeah, and it was a book as well.
You know, one point in my life that I wish I know, I wish I discovered form studies was college.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because it was the time where I made the decision that I want to work in the Western comic book industry,
Mm-hmm.
Marvel, DC, like yeah,
Mm-hmm.
in that mainstream industry. But having no sense of a z axis
Yeah.
in my work, it's really hard.
It's
Trying to
really,
force
yeah.
perspective,
It's
everything
really
looks wonky.
anatomy heavy in that like Western um, comic book industry. You don't just,
Uh-huh.
you have to be able to figure out. When I was younger, there was a guy, I don't remember, Alvin Lee or something. He works for, I forget, but he had the most amazing anatomy. He drew a Street Fighter comic.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was some really, really good stuff. That
Yes.
intimidated me a lot growing up. I never asked how
Oh.
old you were, if you don't mind me asking.
Oh, sure. 32.
32? You sound like you're younger than me. What? I cannot believe I'm younger than you. I'm 27. He's 32. No, I thought
Oh,
you were like 22
really?
or something. Yeah, I'm 27.
Really? I sound young.
Oh yeah, you sound young. Hell yeah. I would have
Oh,
just thought, I would
okay.
have thought you
Thanks.
were like,
I,
I wouldn't have put it past like to be 20 or like 19 or something. But you're so like you're so
I'll take it.
developed, in your career. Of course, you'd be older, but yeah, you just sound so young.
But funnily enough, I look a lot older when I was in college than I am now.
Everyone looks older in college. It's like the most stressful place in the world.
Yeah, yeah. Because after college, I got to focus on athletic stuff like martial arts and parkour.
Mhm. Yeah.
Strangely enough, doing athletics helped me a lot in my creative process.
Because that helps you
This
build
is
discipline, right?
uh not
Yeah.
just that. Having your uh, this is more scientific, but having your blood pump uh pump constantly in your body
Okay.
helps a lot in keeping your brain active. At least
Yeah.
that's my experience with it.
I'm trying to think like how I used to draw when I was, when I wasn't working out like a couple years ago. I know
Hmm.
it's more than a couple years ago, but yeah, I don't remember. I think I remember I being like really stunted, feeling like I used up all my creative like juices all at once at
Uh-huh.
like one.
Yeah, I know that
Yeah,
feeling.
and I would never plan a drawing because I wanted to use up all my creative like force on the final
Hmm.
draft, and then I fell off and had really stiff drawings, really stiff figures. So make blood pump
Oh
constantly
God,
in your
no.
body.
I hate that shit.
I know, it was the worst. No, I don't
Yeah,
want to draw anymore.
it's one of those type of situations where uh, you want to project something on your canvas, but it's not working.
Mhm.
Everything's turning out crappy, and then eventually you just fuck this shit. I'm just gonna play video games.
I know, you just leave. You just leave. That moment when you leave your canvas because you've just been sitting there for
Yeah,
an hour and a half trying to draw
yeah.
something. That's the most disappointment like you can feel as an artist because you just feel like you just did nothing but fail and it sets you up for the fear of failure, which is something I still
Uh-huh.
like suffer from. I still deal with it.
Oh yeah, me too.
It's
There's this how do I say this? Um, sort of artist sense of obligation that you have to make an output,
mm-hmm.
a creative output. But in reality, you always your brain can't always be at that perfect state
Level.
for
Yeah,
such endeavor.
that's so true. Especially if you have like there's always life that happens. So for me, the way
Yeah.
life is happening now is, and I've been like really really vocal about this, is my stupid back problem. Which is why
Yeah,
I had to
your back
yeah.
problem.
So I've had to like do exercises and figure it out. Which is you're right about the exercise when you do like higher cardio, the blood rushing, you kind of feel like you're capable of trying. The fear of failure wasn't a fear after all. It was just stagnation or feeling like you're
Yes.
calcifying.
Yeah. Stagnation is the
Yeah,
worst.
yeah,
It's the absolute worst.
yeah.
It's the
And
worst thing I
yeah,
felt after burning out from a long-term project.
yeah. I was supposed to take a vacation in the winter, and I didn't. I
Hmm.
did. I wasn't teaching, but I streamed every night, and I put out like 4 portraits, like high rendered, and I didn't realize I was getting art fatigue, and
Uh-huh.
I was trying to sketch like 4 days after that, and I couldn't even figure my way around an eye. I'm like, did I forget everything? Like,
Oh God.
why don't I know how to draw an eye anymore? And I
Oh
don't
gosh.
know how the
That's
brain works, but it's just it got used up. You have to learn how to take a break, and I still haven't learned
Yeah,
that.
that's
Yeah.
that's a very frightening situation for an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to
That
tell.
that kind of
Mhm.
burnout happened to me actually last year.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so last year I was involved in a 2 year long project that, well,
Oh wow.
I got paid big for that, but
Mhm.
I felt in the end I felt absolutely miserable as an artist because
Wow.
okay, how to before that project, monthly I have very high rendered pieces, paintings,
Mhm.
similar to uh, the stuff I have in ArtStation. But after that long term project, mm, I wasn't able to do any high render illustration for a span from a span of how many months? 1 month was that? Ended in
Wow.
September, and yeah, from September to December, I wasn't able to do any high level rendering because of that.
That's crazy. And you think you can
Yeah.
go on forever. You think you're just set, You think, oh yeah, I could do this forever. This is good. And you start thinking how
Uh-huh.
much money you're gonna make if you keep this up. And your body just reminds you that you're immortal and
Yeah.
mortal, not immortal. And you're just
Yeah.
so sad about it. You're
As a
so
matter of
pissed
fact,
off.
oh
Mhm.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay. As a matter of fact, after that project, I actually managed to land a gig in Malaysia. It's a
Cool.
full time job, but I was willing to sacrifice it because it just dawned on me that, hey, I just got finished with this long term project, and at my current state, that I can't paint anything, and I get a gig that requires me to do a lot of texture painting and concept art environments.
Mhm.
Uh, I, I I came to the conclusion that this shit is too early.
Yeah. Did you not take the
Yeah.
job?
No, I
Oh
didn't take the
wow.
job.
Wow.
Mm.
That must have been like next level type of fatigue you were experiencing. I would have been
Oh
stupid
yeah, it
enough to
was
take the
insane.
job. I think I would have been. I think I'm stupid enough to take the job
Which
every
is,
day.
mhm,
I mean, every day I make that mistake. Just doing a little bit more every day. But I don't know
mhm,
how much of it is a healthy amount of stubbornness and just learning to push your threshold and how much you can last in a canvas. Because
uh-huh,
I know artists that are so good and they rarely get fatigue and they can keep going. They're machines, and I wonder, is it because I'm a weakling that I'm giving into my art fatigue and not fighting through it, or is it they also had fatigue? They just balanced work with rest.
mm,
And I don't know,
hmm.
like my
Well,
my perfectionism just makes me not um, believe that I'm having
careful with
fatigue.
your health,
Yeah. I don't know. I don't
something
know
like that.
how. Yeah. I don't know how to be. I don't know how to rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One advice I got from industry artist, he has a channel on YouTube. This is some the, from a number of industry veteran level artists from
Mhm.
YouTube. The same advice that I always hear from them is to have a physical hobby because
Oh, yeah.
um, if you notice, I'm not sure if it's true, but he did say that if you notice, majority of the uh, artists in the industries that are successful look very athletic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why I've been like nonstop working out because I'm just
yeah,
like trying to remember that okay, like if I was for some reason invited to a conference or I had to lecture physically in front of a group, if my
mhm.
channel ever got big enough where I'm just invited, I don't want to be that artist that waddles over to the podium. I want to
Yeah,
be able to look better. So there's a vanity behind it, and then there's a performance factor. Obviously, that if you work out, you get better at art. It's like they're just hand in hand. So I discovered that, but again, with the whole rest thing, I don't know how to rest, so I don't know when to sit down and draw and when to go and work out, because I don't know which one is benefiting me more that day. Um, that's really like the biggest riddle, is trying to figure out when to lean on your physical, like dance. I love dance. When to lean
Uh-huh.
on your like physical hobby and when to move back into art. It's all about art. It's all about grooming yourself outside so that you're better with your art. And
Yeah.
it's hard finding that balance.
Yes, life balance is very important.
Yeah.
When you are able to get that balance, you have to shoot for it.
Yeah, it has to be like something you write on your wall. Like today, find it has to be active dialogue. You actually have to be searching for it. You can't expect it to accidentally happen because while
Mhm.
you're thinking positively that day, like it has to be actual caretaking that you're trying to do. Like today, as much as I'm going to have breakfast in the morning, I'm going to try to actively balance rest and work so that I don't fatigue myself. Because if art really means that much to me, I'm going to try to do as much as I can to get all of these hindrances out of the way. And
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's hard.
I definitely don't want my artistic career to be sedentary.
Yeah.
I made that mistake a few years ago.
How so?
Hmm. Like you said, I I don't want to do anything but art.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Just sitting in front of the computer, just working, nothing to balance it out.
Yeah. This one time, it was like I grew in a very like Puritan family, so girls weren't allowed to do
Hmm.
anything. And one of the biggest things I missed out on as a kid was like hiking or camping or seeing the
Oh, that's cool.
outdoors and stuff. So now it's like a go-to. It's like a fountain of like energy for me to go like kayak or get fresh air. So that's something I've been craving a lot. And like anyone who has that right now and you're a growing artist, like enrich your visual library with as much outdoors as possible because you have no
Oh yeah.
idea how good that is for you. Like kayaking, hiking, doing plant sketches or plant life, just drawing anything, drawing a tree. Like you learn muscle memory from what a tree texture pattern is, and you bring that back when you're drawing anything else, when you're drawing grass, when you're drawing fur or fuzzy stuff. That's something that I had to do a lot of from like windows. I had to like draw through a window all the time, drawing trees and stuff at school. At school, sometimes
Mhm.
they took us out on trips and stuff, and we'd get a lot of fresh air. And those were the days I drew
Mhm.
the best. Those were the days like I drew the most because Lord of the Rings was. I don't know if you've ever read Tolkien, but he goes on and on and on about just wildlife. And I love that so much. I wanted firsthand to know what that was. And yeah, so if you're like
Oh yeah.
early on and you're one of those kids that games all day indoors, no vitamin D, your D3 is like plummeted, go outside and get some air. That's as much advice as I can give you with that. I can't wait till the summer comes, and I don't know what my art will do once the summer comes in.
Oh yeah. I could definitely agree with getting out and changing your
Environment.
working environment.
Yeah.
Oh, not necessarily working environment, but exposing yourself into the outside world. Hang on. Something changed in the way I think in
Mhm.
drawing when I went to Japan on a holiday.
Mhm.
All those, okay, modern Tokyo, all those colorful cityscapes at night, uh,
Yeah.
uh, the the bustling rush hours of Tokyo.
Mhm.
Just that change of environment, sort of creates no sparks a fuse in your brain
Oh.
somewhere that I, I can't specifically describe it, but let's just say hmm, that got me into a good creative
Mindset.
mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the thing is, people just take that for granted, or they hear you say it now. This is how I used to be. So I just heard you say, okay, I promise you it'll spark a fuse in your mind, go do it. I used to say, I'll probably find my own version of that.
Mm-hmm.
That'll eventually happen with me. Eventually, I'll get my moment on my own somehow. They put it on the back of their mind, something that just was so big, something that opened up a gateway in your brain that let you access a different part of your creativity. That's humongous. That's big. People go to therapy for that. That isn't easy to do because it's a revelation that changes your gallery, which is what we're all
Oh
here
yeah.
for. So you don't know what's off until you turned it on. You don't know what was
Yes,
off in your
exactly.
brain until it got enabled. So God knows how many
Mm-hmm.
faculties of our brain are disabled right now, and we don't know. And if we had just turned them on, our art would just explode, and we would do everything we dream our art should be would happen if we had just tried everything other artists were preaching about. So form studies are like
Uh-huh.
one thing, but God knows what other kind of form study equivalents are out there that'll open up your brain, and everyone learns so differently. Everyone has a different combination of revelations they need in order to realize themselves as artists. I
Mm-hmm.
know travel for me is a really big one. I haven't traveled enough at all. I
Oh, I enjoy
should.
traveling too.
Yeah. I've always
But
wanted to
yeah.
see Stonehenge, and I find myself like always drawing rocks, just like hanging out. Every time I do like a thumbnail or something, I'm always drawing rocks, and it's like I should feed that part of me because subconsciously, if I just let my hand go, I always end up drawing rocks. And as a kid, Stonehenge was like my dream to see, and I never went and saw it. And I need to listen to like my subconscious now, or unconscious, or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
On rocks, I have to say that drawing rocks is actually a fun thing for me to do too. Painting
Yeah.
rocks, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
If you look at my Twitter, there's a point in there's a point there where I painted nothing but rocks.
Let me go see it. Let me go find it.
Yeah.
Jerome. How low are we going?
Hang on. Uh,
Let me go see it. I want to see Jerome's rocks. That sounds so wrong.
that sounded wrong.
I didn't realize till I was done saying it. Oh, is it this? The photo studies?
Wait. Oh, photo
Oh,
studies.
there we go. There we
Yeah.
go. I found them. Oh, those are nice. Oh, I love them. I really need to go see Stonehenge
So,
like ASAP.
so the reason I enjoy drawing rocks is because mm, I I decided to look at rocks on specifically to look at the scientific composition. No, sorry, the biological composition of rocks. How it's how it's how it was formed, how many layers of different types of metals and minerals,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which that go that go on top of each other, which basically decides what it looks like on the outside,
Mm-hmm.
and how let's say on the desert, how sand cascades through the how sand cascades onto the surface of a rock,
Mm-hmm.
based on the gravitational pull of the Earth, something like that,
Oh.
and maybe even mud or the locations where moss appears,
Yeah.
based on where wet soil uh, gets placed on
Mm-hmm.
whatever surface.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fun puzzle solving for me to figure out, which is why I spent, I think, 2 months drawing nothing but rocks.
Mm-hmm. I love how every time you say you did a study, you say months. Students think that they can just do one study one day and then they can cross rocks off their list. But like Jerome is right here, like a full-on professional, and he's talking in months. You know, that's his currency. That should also be your currency if you're listening and you just did like one tree study or something. That's not enough. You have to really get into it. Like the way he talked about it was in full detail. He understood the geological whatever systems behind it. That's how you should be with everything that you feel like you need one day for your illustrations. Not everybody will be drawing rocks, but sometimes depending on your niche, you're going to be needing one really big part to fill up an illustration. Rocks was one of my most annoying things because I couldn't wrap my head around how to draw a rock. Because I was so detail oriented when I was younger, I didn't know how to keep a midtone running long enough for a surface
Mm-hmm.
area. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to let a value just stay a value for as long as the surface area was. It was such a stupid little, specific thing, and that's why I'm always lecturing about midtones. Like, let your midtones be. Don't feel the need to shrink your brush or zoom in, because you're gonna throw off the texture completely. So, I have a history with rocks, and that's how you all should be talking. You should all be talking like this. You should all have like a personal relationship with everything that you're going to be including in a canvas one day, like a personal
You
study
say that.
history. Mm-hmm.
You say that like
It's a
some
relationship.
rock some rock did something horrible to you.
Like some rock broke my heart or something. It's like a relationship problem. But yeah, that's exactly how it should be. You guys should be out there exploring. And now resources are so, like Honing Ball was talking about VR. That's a really great way to just get yourself in the atmosphere that you want to be in. You don't always have to travel. Of course, there's like the air of traveling and just changing your
Uh-huh.
environment. That's obviously amazing. No one can give you that other than actually doing it. But yeah, I totally get the whole rock thing and just having a personal experience with each texture, with each big revelation moment in your gallery. Hug a tree, hug a rock. Painting moss is hard. Any tips? Do you have any tips for him, Drew? To GM.
Hmm. Painting moss. Well, actually, I'm still on the stage figuring out how to create a systematic process of painting moss. But the one thing that I always keep in mind when painting moss is, or rather, two things: subsurface scattering
Mm,
and subsurface scattering and form studies.
yeah.
Those two things.
Which comes first?
Um, that depends on whether the moss itself is lit or is
Mm,
in the area of the core shadow of the form.
okay.
I'm sorry, I can't give a quick solution for that, but yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm still figuring out how to paint moss efficiently.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually you'll figure out your own way of
Yeah.
painting something. Because like this one artist said, when you start painting something, when you start doing something new, it always feels awkward. It feels slow. Your
Yeah.
output is
Slow.
absolutely crap. But
Yeah.
then, if you keep doing it, um, whether you like it or not, your brain finds a way
Speed up the process.
to innovate because as he said, the human brain is designed to be efficient in what you do,
Yeah.
to find efficiency.
Yeah. What I tell my students is the brain will never repeat a task and not find a faster way to repeat it the second time, third time exponentially. So you've
Uh-huh.
seen those people who chop vegetables really fast because they've
Yeah.
done it so many times. They're like, I'm not even talking about chopping vegetables. I'm talking about flash, like lightning speed vegetable chopping. And there
Uh-huh.
wasn't like a talent they were born with. It's their brain has like pathways that were just designated for processing that task. And that's just it's like I don't know, I'm horrified by the idea of chopping that fast because it's so dangerous, but these people are fine. They have a couple of learning scars, but they're fine. Probably the first couple stumbles, it transfers exactly. And I wonder how much of what we learn is knowledge, actual awareness and consciousness of why we chose that color or why we did that line, and how much of it is mileage and innovation that you were
Oh,
mentioning.
yes.
Like, what is it?
Oh,
What
yes,
could it
mileage.
be? Yeah, it's hard to tell which one is credited to knowledge and which one is credited to your brain doing the rest.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I always look at knowledge as knowledge is knowledge is only going to be knowledge if you don't put it to practice.
Yeah, yeah. And does it stay active knowledge, or does it become passive back of your mind knowledge and it becomes instinct eventually? Like, does it always
Ah,
stay knowledge? Yeah, that's something I always wonder between how my students get better. Some of my private students get really
and
good
that's
really fast, and I don't know
yes,
why. Yeah.
that's something else. I that's something I also suffer from time to time because I tend to watch a lot of tutorials on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, but I only get to execute uh, a handful of knowledge of all the stuff I watch
Yeah,
because
yeah.
mm, some people say overabundance of information can
Lead
can
to burnout.
yeah, not necessarily, but uh, knowledge paralysis.
Oh, okay. Knowledge paralysis. That's interesting.
Having so much to think about that you don't know what to do.
They do say that there's a lot of mystery around why we sleep and why we need it. They say we don't need it physically.
Mhm,
Physically, you just have to lay there and your brain will start to heal itself. But I mean, your
mhm.
body will start to heal itself. But the brain needs sleep. From the reading I've done recently, that in order to store information and create pathways, it can't think live and be awake as it creates pathways. And that's the stuff it does when you're sleeping. You come
Uh-huh.
back the next day, everything feels so normal. What the knowledge you learned that made you so frantic yesterday becomes so common and familiar to a landscape today. So yeah, the back to sleep, that is it's so important. And even just talking about it, I'm getting like my own little revelations on how to extend that into other fields, and how much my art would improve if I just took it more seriously. A student, it's so easy to improve because you have so many fundamentals you can cross off your list, and it's so fun, and stuff starts to look good really, really quickly. But the better you get, the harder it is to improve because there's less that you can look to improve your work. Um, and by then, all the
Yeah,
ideas
definitely.
you've burned them out. All the ideas you've used up. You've drawn a thousand of this character and this character, and then you have the pressure of being creative, and there's so much stuff out there ready to fatigue you and paralyze you.
Yes. After all, it's the information age.
Yeah, especially because of that. Yeah, holy crap. Forgot about
Yeah,
that.
so much information out there.
It's like a renaissance. Fatty substance actually wraps around and isolates our neurons to make things faster and more effective. It gets improved when you sleep if you practice something and repeat it. Yeah,
Mm,
that's awesome. A fatty substance.
that is something.
Analysis paralysis.
Okay, that's cool.
It's like our brain highways. Yeah. When you feel the fluid around the brain changes, sleep is important. When you sleep, the fluid around your brain changes. Yeah. Hi, Kira. So, what was like some of the first inspiration that you had? Like one of the first drawings you ever did? Um, for me, it
Me?
was Pokemon and card captors. I was drawing anime.
Ah, okay.
Did you
All
start
right.
off with anime?
Yeah. Pokemon.
Pokemon, yeah. Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z. But yeah, card captors just had me hooked. I was drawing. You know how card captors. What kills me is drawings in an anime show. Like when they have drawings in a movie or
Oh, oh
drawings
yeah.
in a show. Because the card captor series, she had cards, and the cards were drawings of the creature in the card, of the power in the card.
Oh yeah.
And I was so jealous. It was just I honestly improved off jealousy. That was my power. That was my force. Just jealousy and competitiveness. And I was so jealous, and I sunk up as much of each picture whenever the card was held by the character or something. Um, I saw the drawing of like the power card or the little ferret running speed card. Yeah, that was it. The swift card. I started trying to redraw them, and that's when I started drawing. So, do you have a moment like that?
Uh, hmm. Something like a big revelation that set me into the path you're saying.
Yeah. Anything. It could have been some silly little thing.
Hmm. I forgot if I'm going to trace my history with art. What could it be? Uh, I guess I could see Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the way Goku was drawn because he was so chunky, you know? Like, he actually was
Hmm.
able to draw a young body and depict a toddler body with an adult body. I forget his name, the artist, but he just did so well with. And I still watched it. I watched it a couple years ago, and it's just. I tried to marry that style with Ghibli, and that's kind of where my drawing sketching style came back because I spent like a
Yeah.
big time, like 3 years ago, just studying Ghibli. And it changed the way I draw eyes, the way I draw everything. But yeah, Dragon Ball.
Oh yeah, Ghibli's another thing that created spark. What was the very first Ghibli movie I watched? I think it was um,
Kiki's?
Spirited
Oh,
Away, I think.
Spirited Away, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a
When I
pretty
saw
late one.
the juxtaposition of the simply the very simple drawing of the characters on the very detailed backgrounds, where I went, holy shit.
Oh, yeah, the
Yeah.
animation, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he always did to make up for why he took so many shortcuts with his animation. He gets criticized a lot because
Oh
back
yeah.
then, even more, like, even like way less commercially valuable shows were trying detail with their anime. And he
Uh-huh.
did a completely new style that was so simple, and at first, everyone hated it. The first time I remember seeing Ghibli, I thought the characters were so ugly because it was
Mm-hmm.
so opposite to that big eye, small nose, large space, a small space between the nose and the mouth, but he completely inverted that. He gave us thick eyebrows, small eyes, large nose, and then a distance between the nose and the mouth. This is all from my studying, and his characters never had more than a line on their shirt or a stripe or something like that. Whereas in other animes, you had full on detail on buckles and shirts and seams and stuff like that. And after that, it just became a staple art. You know, full on like a national treasure in Japan. Um, and
Yeah, definitely.
and then it moved so many artists. It changed the way we saw stuff, and then we ended up seeing what he was doing, and it was that simplicity and the volume. What he was drawing when he wasn't drawing it, he was actually drawing more by
Yeah.
drawing less. That was something I really admired. I try to use that still in my work. Spirited Away
The
was
one thing
also
that
Xanadam's first
yeah,
Ghibli movie.
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. The one thing that blew my mind away with regards to Ghibli is the backgrounds,
Yeah,
the set designs, and the fact that it's painted using poster paints.
yeah. They set up their palettes and then just kind of pre-mixed, and then
Uh-huh.
they just go in. It's so wonderful.
Uh-huh.
That's
Uh-huh.
so cool.
Actually, there was one point last year where I keep attending a traditional painting workshop. It
Mm-hmm.
turns out the teacher there was actually one of the background artists on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the '80s
Oh,
one.
that's really cool.
So yeah, that's really cool. Unfortunately, I don't have a video of him of his work right now, but there was one live painting he did where he painted a full body portrait of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman
Ah,
in 4 hours, just 4 hours, and it was very accurate using
wow.
poster paint.
It's crazy what field practice does for your art. And just
Yeah.
everyone is waiting for when they're professionals before they start drawing, but actually just putting yourself in the pressure of a studio or a workplace or just even freelancing gives you all the experience you would have never got in the safety of your office while you were training in your sandbox environment. Just I'm sure you've improved so much because you were working um, on a project, and that those burnouts you had each time you like leveled up like crazy. Like Goku in the hyperbolic time chamber, he'd come out like beaten up, or in the gravity chamber, he'd come out like broken to pieces, and every time he defeated an enemy, he came back even stronger because he broke all his bones. It's the same exact thing. Just field experience might do so much just for your improvement.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Sailor Moon. How could I forget about Sailor Moon? Her transformation, pretty much the transformation nude scene. It's not really a nude scene, but it was like some amazing. Back then, it was like top-notch animation. Her transformation scene.
Mm-hmm.
Even today, it's hand drawn and everything. But yeah, Honing Ball says Sailor Moon hit me like a rock. Before that, birds. As a child, I was addicted to birds and trees. That's so sweet. But yeah, Sailor Moon
Birds and
was
trees.
a big thing for me. Yeah, like I learned how to draw a woman because of Sailor Moon.
Oh,
Because of
that's
her,
cool.
because of her curves, and her like boobies, and she's just flying around. And girls are, we have Barbies and stuff, so we were able to draw anatomy so much better. But I never had Ken dolls
But
because my parents thought that was bad.
you had Sailor Moon.
Yeah, I had Sailor Moon. Yeah. The Ghibli style needs only a small line to show a form, and it's so yeah. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Scooby Doo. Akira Toriyama, yeah. I can't remember Japanese names, too many syllables. I was obsessed with Yu-Gi-Oh! Digimon, yes. Do you have any animes you started off with other than Dragon Ball?
Me?
Yeah. Any other animes you started off with other than Dragon Ball?
If I'm gonna go earlier, I think the earliest drawing I did at the point where I started to get interested in art was at the age of 6. I started drawing Super Mario Brothers.
That's so cool. I never got into that. I wish I did. I feel like I'm missing out on a lot.
The NES was the very first was my very first exposure to modern technology at that time. So it was a very big thing for me. That became my initial inspiration for drawing, actually.
Which console?
NES. The very first Nintendo system.
Oh, that's so cool. Mine was Atari, and then it was PlayStation. Went on to this really old game called Medieval on the PS2.
Medieval, yeah.
Do you remember that? Really?
Medieval, the one with skeleton.
Yes, the skeleton who lost his eye and who was dishonored because he went on the first the first charge, and an arrow killed him, and he lost honor, so he had to defeat this evil guy and get his honor back and go to the Hall of Heroes. Oh man, that was one of my first experiences.
Actually, I haven't played that yet, but I know it's pretty big as a cult following. Yeah.
I wish they could rework it or something, just do something different with it. It was a really cool idea. It was funny too. And it was so ghoulish.
As far as I remember, I know they announced a remaster of it. I'm not sure if it's the same caliber as the remake of Crash Bandicoot, but it'll be cool if they did.
Okay, I think I'm about ready to make some lines. Just have to decide on costume. About that, how do you figure out costume? How do you know how much costume you like how much costume you need for the character? Especially because we talked about that volume and negative space. And are you worried about repeating costumes? I feel like I am, because I feel like I'm being a lazy little git and I'm not really looking up different costume types. I tried Pinterest. I tried that whole Pinterest thing. But I feel like I can't retain that much costume knowledge. I'm not a costume designer. I'm an artist, and I know I have to have some of that in there. But how do you feel about repeating costumes over different characters? Do you feel like it's a thing to worry about?
The sense of repetitiveness can be beneficial if let's say I'm working on let's say a set of characters that lives in a certain type of culture.
Yeah.
So there has to be some level of consistency within that set.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to costumes, the very first thing I do when designing costumes is, or clothing for that matter, is shapes.
Yeah. So
Just
like you
starting with basic shapes.
so you base the costume off whatever random shape you put on, or you think of the costume first and then you get the idea for the, or you put the
Well,
shape
I
on and
definitely
then you
think.
get the idea for the costume.
uh, Well, I definitely think of the role of the character, whether
Mm-hmm.
he's a knight or blacksmith,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, I definitely have a preconceived notion of what a knight looks like, but um, so, having to start with shapes. I don't know if you've seen this video. Do you know Anthony Jones?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a video about the basic principles of designs.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, he teaches how to use simple shapes effectively. That that that's that's going to benefit your character design, costume
Mm-hmm.
design, composition, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, hmm. Actually, let me show it here. So let's start with a square.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love
I
that
know
square.
you discussed this
Yeah,
topic
yeah,
back then.
yeah.
Uh, let's say I know. Okay, a square. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
a square. So roughly, all of these squares are of same of same size, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's a sense of uniformity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But of course, in design, there has to be one part of it that stands out. There has to be something that causes imbalance. So the the very first thing it teaches is the calls it the 3-layer cake. 3-layer
Uh,
cake. Wherein you have a shape, right?
mm-hmm.
Let's say okay. Let's use squares. You have a shape, and you want to draw an additional 2 squares. But what you have to do is they have to be of different sizes, different scales, or even not make it a square.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
So,
Okay.
so that's basically what I do with costume design. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say uh, they I have a basic human figure here. Yeah, I could I could line up the shapes like this, but it looks boring. So uh, I'm gonna line it up like this.
Oh, I see.
It's this like I said before, it's the detail exhaust, the area where it has less detail versus
Mm-hmm.
the area that has more detail, which
Mm-hmm.
creates the area of interest.
Mm-hmm. I see. With the
Hmm.
breathing room, yeah.
Yeah, the breathing room. Yeah,
Yeah. I see. So
that's
you
that's
okay, yeah.
basically my the principles I follow when
So in yours, in that
designing
mouse
costumes for
sketch you have
characters.
right there, the ear is one shape, and then I would say the purse is another shape that speaks to me. Um,
Uh-huh.
and then the waistcoat, right there that you're painting in right now. So like all of that would be the three shapes for the costume. But the thing is, the ear, I don't know, because I know it's anatomy, but ears really do behave like costumes. Because for us, we base it off on our human anatomy. And our human anatomy has Oh, you stopped sharing a screen. Oh, I think you got disconnected. But yeah, now I want cake. Hi, Ahmed.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah,
Don't know what happened.
Yeah, you disconnected a little. You can share your screen again because it got thrown off.
Hang on. Sure.
Oh, I forgot what I was saying.
Okay. There.
Yeah. Oh, right. I was saying how ears, when you're drawing animal characters, ears are, for me, I treat them as part of the costume, even though it's necessary for the animal because they're so. We have flat ears and we base it off human anatomy, and anything outside of flat ears would be something that we would have worn as a costume, and we're trying to humanize the character. So the size of the ear, a mouse is a mouse. Doesn't really matter how big the ear is because it'll read as a mouse. So for me, the ears, the waistcoat, and the purse are the three shapes of your costume. I always include the ear in the costume.
I see.
Yeah. I don't know if that's going to ruin my art. I don't know if that's going to improve my art, really. Just thinking about it like that.
But being aware is one good step forward.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just being aware of the meta aspect of what you're designing.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone have any questions for Jerome? They're gonna ask you what you're. Never mind.
What?
That's gonna be inappropriate. So we're just gonna. All my character costumes must work a little bit decoration, but I try to match them with personality and function. The rest is graphic design stuff. What do the costumes for the mean for the viewer? Oh, I see.
Let me read the question.
Oh, they're not. They haven't. There's a bit of a latency, so we just have to wait. For the questions to come in. For me, I'm at a point where I've done so many sketches that have good line art that because I've succeeded in line art in that department, I never want to go back to rough sketches. But then I envy artists who like you who have really, really really efficient line use, but it's not like this perfect animatable line, like animation line. And I feel like having that animation input in my past and having that break that I did with the Ghibli, studying Ghibli style, kind of slowed down my finals, my final lines, my final process. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. I want to be able to draw like the messy line, like just doing something like this. I want to be able to do that, but it's like completely against my DNA now. I don't know how to let go.
Well, unlearning things is one of the hardest.
Oh yeah.
But to learn something, you have to unlearn what you know. Let go of your habits.
That's true.
So if I'm gonna teach myself 3D, I'm gonna that's probably gonna be a bumpy road because my mind is very fixed on 2D illustration. The technical aspect of 3D programs is what I'm saying. When especially when my brain is either Photoshop or paper.
Oh yeah, totally. I remember the first time I saw ZBrush, I was so intimidated. Now it's just familiar territory, but I benefited a lot from sculpting. I understood more about rotation. That's why I'm always assigning sculptures for my students because it's like a whole extra field of the way to enrich your visual library. You have to have it, eventually. So when someone is asking you, how does he create the fur texture? Does he use a textured brush or paint strokes and smudge them at edges connected to the main fur and skin?
That's actually hard to explain because fur is well, first of all, sometimes fur can look like hair, sometimes it doesn't. But when I'm painting fur, I always think in layers. If okay, let me demonstrate here using this the face of this mouse. First of all, when it comes to fur, I don't paint them in maximum full detail. I only paint impressions of the fur.
Yeah, the illusion of the texture.
Yeah, hang on. Let me show you an example. This one was shown publicly, so I could. Where is it? Yeah, I could show this one. I'll send it over.
Another question: how is he able to create a harmony of colors to know exactly where to put pops of opposite colors, so complementary tones? Open original. Okay. Yeah, so the illusion of the texture, not the full out little strokes of hair, using smudge tool on the edges, or just like the illusion of the big brush strokes that kind of trick you into thinking you're seeing fur or yeah, the fuzz, but it's not. You know, it's just a mess.
One thing I could say about that is I separate my work into two sections. One section is study, and one section is the output. Okay, if I'm going to use fur on those two sections, in my study, I look at images of animals with fur, or even look at my own cat to study how fur behaves in light or in this angle, or how the fur this area of the body looks like when there's less fur, right? So I go into the nitty-gritty details of what I see in front of me and what I analyze, and then when it comes to output, having done so much studies of fur, when it comes to output, it just naturally comes out. All the knowledge you gain. Yeah. So in terms of output, I'm gonna paint this mouse face. So first, where's my light source? Hang on.
Oh crap! It's hand time.
Okay. First, I actually don't worry about the fur detail first, because I need to look at it as a solid form first and foremost. So I treat it like a form study.
I see. So just get in the areas, like the regions, neighborhoods that are facing light or not, so that you know your range.
Yeah.
And do you do that as well for saturation, or do you just saturate whenever you feel like it, depending on, doesn't matter if it's in shadow or highlight?
Initially, I saturate because I want to put spots of interest in my in the painting. But normally nowadays I saturate areas of subsurface scattering or midtones.
Subsurface scattering and midtones. Do you just sometimes cheat and just have your fake subsurface every time? Because that's a way to create a style. That's a way to have a style, just faking the need for subsurface.
I used to do that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still do it. It still looks good.
Sometimes I usually force subsurface scattering on this ear. Yeah.
Oh, right, because it's just so pretty.
someone's asked another question. Have you ever considered doing animation? I actually did animation back then when I was in college. It was a requirement to do animation.
Yeah.
Um, there was this initial dream of working for the animation industry, but
Mm.
when I got into the final output of that animation project in college, that's when I realized animation is very hard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it can be a very robotic
Rewarding.
process.
Oh yeah,
In
yeah.
my case, it is because uh, I don't see myself drawing frames upon frames
The same
of
drawing.
human bodies, objects. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I instantly gave up on that dream.
I can understand
Uh,
exactly why you gave up.
uh,
It's very repetitive. It's very rewarding, and the glory is there. And everyone loves an animated hand sketch drawing, and all the favorites are
yeah.
saved for that, you know. But it's so taxing, and I always used to complain when I was younger about why the gifts were so short every time. Um, but I then realized that when hand animation first, you know, it took them 10 years to animate Sleeping Beauty, I think.
Oh
Um,
wow.
10
Oh my
full
god.
years back then, and that was full hand animation, painting large panels of panning scenes. Um, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. That's not something I see myself doing at all, like ever.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I appreciate the art so much, the effort and work that goes into animation, but
Yeah,
uh, I leave that to the experts.
yeah. And you know, the glory behind it is actually, it takes you a long time to work up your way into actually being the director for the keyframes or the main artist
Ah
for
yes,
keyframes. You're just thrown
yeah,
into this big pool of nobody drones that do the in betweens, and it'll take you years to work up into being one of those that decides how something moves or how something. You're so micromanaged, and it's really tough. It's really tough. Just from like just looking at how it's done in Ghibli. There's this little clip everyone watches of
yeah,
like inside Ghibli when they were first producing um, Spirited Away, and how it's because they think they're going to finish the project. They overshoot every time for how long the project will take them. And every single time, if you've noticed as well, if the continuity of the story, it's always rushed at the end because you actually can't
hmm
predict how long it's going to take to process all the in betweens, edits, changes. That I know they change the story halfway through because he just does that. That's his style, Miyazaki. Um, it's not the glory game everyone thinks it is, and everyone who goes into it thinks they're just going to be sitting there drawing fluffy, beautiful animals for Pixar in 3 years. Right? It's a career. It's a massive career choice, and you're in it for the
yeah,
long haul before you get any kind of reward, before you see your name in like lead animator or anything like that. Years and years, and it's seniority. They always hire from the inside. You have to work your way into being one of the top veterans in order to be um, uh, considered for as the head of the project or the main vision behind a project. So it's like we don't want to break anyone's dreams, but we also want to let people know what they're in for if animation is what they're aiming for. Yeah, 10 years. 10 years is how long it took them. It's a massive career choice. Ignacio asks, I wonder if drawing from a mirror has some sort of disadvantage comparing to a life drawing. I find it great for drawing hands and poses, otherwise I would not be able to see.
mm.
Um,
Well,
Go ahead.
I find mirrors useful, uh, um, especially when I need reference for expressions.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about mirrors versus static images is I get to see how, let's say, my lips move, or
Mm-hmm.
my, how the flesh parts of my eye changes depending on what I do with my eye,
Yeah.
whether I frown or I frown or I smile. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
having to see those changes happen in real time, I firmly believe is a lot beneficial than looking at static images. But of course, you can't always have a live reference. That's just the thing.
That's true, yeah. So yeah, don't be so wary about
Uh,
using whatever resources available for you, Ignacio. Honing Ball said, working for an animation film is more like, look, Mom, I made this mushroom in the background. That was all me. I drew this mushroom. That's so true. Oh, gosh.
yeah, that's actually true. Hang on, someone asked another question. Um, how how is he able to create a harmony of colors and know
Yeah.
exactly where to put pops off
Yes.
opposite colors?
So your saturation and your color choice. What are your thoughts behind that?
Mm.
I love
Well,
what you did. I love what you did with
the
that white. I'm just staring at it.
well, the thing about colors is, I'd say color's relative. I don't just choose. Well, in terms of lighting, colors are relative. It depends on it depends on the lighting condition, uh, the amount of bounce light. Basically, like we all observed, light makes various changes on the color of an object based on its biological composition, depending on how depending on whether the object has a degree of translucency or or just pure solid, or the amount of, let's say, the surface, how much grime it has, which contributes to the subtle color changes that I I apply on the surface. But in terms of design, the one thing I follow in terms of design when it comes to colors is I always go for contrast.
Contrast, yeah. Thing is,
Yeah.
you do contrast
Which is
well, so I'm worried when you say contrast, they'll think, oh, I can use black and white. So what do you mean by contrast? How much black
yeah.
and white are you using
Mm,
when we grayscale your stuff? You're actually not using that much. You only use it in
mm,
pockets, like that full illustration of the caravan and the ale.
mhm.
You have pockets of black under the arm, pockets of black here and there, but everything else is a degree of gray. And the only
Ah,
contrast you have is like this beautiful shift to the opening of the cave, and like that's about it. You don't have pure white anywhere. You don't have like a pure solid white. Everything is gray. So when you say
mm,
contrast to a student, they might hear you wrong. So how do you want them to hear the
ah.
word contrast?
Okay. Okay. Look at that image at the center, the one
Mm-hmm.
with the main wolf.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what I meant by contrast is uh, okay. When I drew this image, I wanted the face to pop out as much, the head. So the head is ranging from red to oranges, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the the very next thing, the very next object that appears below the head is the scarf. So I made the scarf color blue because yeah, because cool stands out from warm.
Yeah.
That's basically what I meant by contrast.
Okay, so complementary tones and like
Uh, com-
juxtapositioning. Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
juxtaposition. But
Um,
yes, I would agree that contrast is a very broad term.
yeah, and dangerous for students
Yeah,
to mess
yeah,
around
yeah.
with, especially if they're trying to render well
There's a lot of
before.
you could interpret contrast depending on the context of it,
Yeah,
where it's how it's used.
so be careful,
How do you
kids.
find
Don't
output?
say no to contrast. Say no to black and white.
how do you find what kind of art in what area of the artist you want to work? I mean, art's just deciding at the moment what to do in the future, and I have no idea.
It's a big question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Uh, yeah, I experienced that kind of conflict back then. Um, what I would what I would advise is uh, work on what you are good at, whether you're good at character design or environments, because the industry hires you for what you're good at, for what you're best at. They hire you for your strength, for your strengths.
Yeah, strengths.
Uh,
Yeah.
uh, so in my case, I generally work on character illustrations. So that's why most of the gigs I get are character related.
Yeah, it seems
So
like such
if
a
if you
simple
yeah
answer, but the question can be so
yeah
confusing to some because they don't know what they're good at yet.
yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah,
That really depends on what you want to do basically.
yeah,
It's that kind of conflict where I want to do environments, or I want to do characters. And as a matter of fact, I still have that conflict now, because of, at one point I want to do character illustrations, but there's there's a phase where I want to do environmental illustrations, and to be honest, that actually hampers the development of both sides, because I don't know what to focus on.
mm-hmm.
So, but in the end, at the end of the day, I guess it really comes down on what you enjoy doing,
That's
and
true.
being being good at what you enjoy doing. Because if you don't enjoy what you do, you're gonna have a hard time being good at it.
That's true.
Because if you enjoy doing something, you do it every time, right?
Yeah. Would you recommend that students even worry about that right now if they're not even into form studies yet? Like just not beat around the bush and I'm known to be very straight when they're just beginners, when they don't even know how to
Mhm.
render something yet. Do you think this is something they should be worried about?
Hang on. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I was
Sure.
looking at something.
Sure.
Ah.
Let's say that the student who's asking this question is a beginner,
Yeah.
and like they're not even into rendering forms yet.
Mm,
they can't wrap their heads around contrast use or line dependency. They're very line dependent. Do you think they have any business worrying about this question about career?
mm. Um, hmm. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually quite tempting to think of the path you want to take in terms of your professional career very early on. But that itself could become crippling, especially if uh, okay, let's say back then, when I wasn't good as I am now. Let's say ah, I want a career in character design.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I look at all these images in ArtStation, and whoa, I can't do shit like this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I can't do amazing illustrations like this. That that's the part where you could either be crippled, creatively crippled, or inspired,
Or scared
um,
out of your wits, not even
or scared.
bother.
Yeah,
Yeah, or not even
yeah,
bother with art.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Give up on the path. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's really a matter of uh, setting that, not an end goal, but a goal that's
Mm-hmm.
always there. Uh, a goal that's always there, that you're working towards, that that doesn't have an end, but it's always in front of you.
That's really beautiful, yeah. You're not concerned with the end, you're just concerned with the momentary, like day by day explorations of that goal.
Mhm.
And not punish yourself if that goal changes. Like you said, you wanted to go into animation. It made you draw, didn't it? Like it made you think about
Yes,
drawing, it made you draw better. But you never ended up in that field. And
yes.
but it still played a role in your journey. So, yeah, the answer is don't be so concerned. Take it day by day. If it changes, that's fine. You pick something up from each junction, and where you end up will be an accumulation of all your moments in your journey, and that's what's going to help create your style. And I did want to ask you about style. Do you think you have a
Oh,
style?
okay. So,
Do you
what
do
I
you
want to ask about style,
do you think you have a style?
me.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Um, Nowadays, I would say, I guess I have a style, but that style was a result of uh, just letting things happen naturally. When I say
Mm-hmm.
letting things happen naturally, is I don't worry about style. I don't. I'm sorry. Not being conscious about what style I should have, or what what style I should be imitating, or
Mm-hmm.
it's just something that develops over time that you don't necessarily notice, but it gradually comes out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whether you like it or not situation.
I see.
Because I never actively seek out a style to have. It's something that just came out over time. In my case, but there are moments where I do experiment, break certain rules, like you always say,
Mm-hmm.
systematic breaking of rules.
Yeah.
Uh, those are the moments where I actively uh, look for what changes I want to add in my style.
Okay. So the
Jerome,
style
what?
question
Yeah.
should come up when you're, if you were to give them a time frame, when did you notice your style developed, and when was it? When did you notice you no longer had habit style and mistake style, or conscious style?
Ah.
That's not conscious. I know you said it's instinctive, like you felt your way through it, but when do you think that
Mhm.
point changed? Was it after the form study revelation? Was it before the form study revelation? Yeah, go ahead.
Hmm. Okay. I would say um, around the time when I started working on commissions on DeviantArt. That was a time people paid me for the style, as they said. They said they like the style, so they pay money for it. Um, I guess I guess my style came out way back then before I discovered what form studies are years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, having learning all these fundamentals, form studies, lights, they definitely enhanced uh,
Yeah.
the style I had back then.
Mm-hmm.
Being conscious of uh, forms, lights.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's like putting thought, mixing thought and instinct.
Yeah, that's a good way to. Yeah, good. I like that answer. Mixing thought and instinct. Um, how about those people that use style as an excuse to not improve since they already have such a response? What drove you to want to keep improving? You were getting paid,
Mm.
you had what you needed out of art. What kept you pushing forward to developing your fundamentals if you were already found the end all
If
dream? Yeah.
ah well, it's well, in my case it's very personal. I always don't feel satisfied even if I, let's say, land this really big project, it's only natural for me to not feel content. So
Yeah.
that's why I actively seek getting better.
Mhm. I like that. Yeah. I was watching this video by a guy named Exerbia, and he was talking about on YouTube. He was talking about why no one's happy. Even though you can get everything you want, you're still not happy. And it's just part of the
Mhm.
evolutionary process. We wouldn't have made cities or developed civilizations or sought to bring in more luxury into our lives. The computer, the home computer, the personal office, all of that is accredited to the fact that someone wasn't happy with their surroundings and they pursued um, a way to better it. You're never going to be happy with your art, and that's why we're going to always move forward. So I really
Mhm.
agree with that, yeah. Question for Jerome. How much does that Colorist app assist workflow? Really good question. So your app right now for Colorist,
Mhm.
how much does that assist your workflow? How much does it benefit your,
Hmm.
your work speed or your work environment?
What was the question? Colorist?
You know the Colorist right there, that app, the triangular color picker?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought you were referring to something else.
No,
Ah,
they
hmm.
were saying how much does that Colorist? It's called Colorist
Ah.
app assist workflow.
Oh, this is actually not Colorist. This is called Magic Picker.
Mm-hmm.
It's a plugin I bought. Anyway, having a color wheel like this, it basically makes my workflow faster in
Mm-hmm.
terms of in terms of color harmony. Let's
I
say,
see.
okay, let's say I have this color from the head of this mouse. Uh, I want to go. Let's say in this area, I want to go darker. So, so I move the picker here, and I move the value and saturation lower. Or if I want to add some complementary color, I just move it over here, move it over here. It generally just makes the workflow a bit more efficient than having
Oh.
to work on the default
Mm-hmm.
uh, color picker on
Mm-hmm.
Photoshop, or having to work with this one. Yeah, this small panel over here,
Mm-hmm.
because having the coloring like this, I get to see the color the hue that
It's a color
complements
wheel. Yeah.
the yeah, the color, the hue
Mm-hmm.
that complements the color I have in my brush right now,
Mm-hmm.
or the tertiary or the analogous
Yeah.
colors.
Exactly. Yeah. That's nice. I never took moved into those. Because I don't know why I just had like the image of the color wheel in my mind. And lately I've just like I went on like a Grayscale pilgrimage to make sure I max out. Because being a teacher, I had to be the best at what I do, what I'm teaching. So faces had to improve the soonest, and I knew I had to start listening to my own um, advice and like leave color alone. And color became very boring for me. It was like one of my first YouTube videos. So
Uh-huh.
I stopped. I just left color. But now that you mention that you can see the color wheel in front of you, when I move my migration back to color eventually, I'll want to I want to do that. I want to keep those complementaries in mind, especially because what you said earlier about your style. I've always been meaning to ask you about your color choices and the fact that you said blue and the cool. It's all like basics, but
Uh-huh.
I just don't think in color anymore, and I need to start teaching myself. Someone asks you, Jerome, do you think copying
Yeah.
drawings from artists whose style we admire is helpful? Does copying artists or master studies or just artists that are modern, do you think that's helpful?
Well, there are two sides to copying someone's work. There's copying the illustration like your copying machine, and there's copying the illustration, and analyzing what you're copying. Like, let's say you look at a painting of Michelangelo. Instead of just copying it uh, accurately, you study why this, let's say, why the faces of the people that Michelangelo paints look the way it is.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. There's there's
Which one is better,
copying
do
it
you
like a
think?
copying machine, and there's analysis.
Which
You're
one do
always
you recommend
analyzing.
for students?
Ah, well, the analysis part could be uh, could be daunting, especially if you don't know what to analyze. So there's initially nothing wrong with copying it like a copying machine, unless it becomes a total crutch, wherein you end up wherein you end up not being able to paint anything
Copying.
perfectly copying it. Yeah,
So yeah.
like a copying machine. Yeah.
Yeah, so the answer would be
The
depend more on analysis if you really want to copy. So, like, look at color use and style and all of that. Like, analyze it the way you would analyze, like a biologist would analyze a plant.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Basically scientific almost.
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
another thing I want to add. Cop just copying a little, copying an image like a copying machine also has the risk of copying the artist's mistakes without realizing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I totally agree. The person asked what I think of that, and I think just completely don't do it. When you, because you said you have to know what you enjoy doing in order to know where you want to go. So that's, analysis is a wonderful way to keep yourself in touch with where you imagine yourself being. But you've got so many other studies to get out of the way that that should be the fun stuff. Just looking at your artists, just browsing and trying to reignite your inspiration. That's what I call the fun stuff. I wouldn't. That's kind of like what a break used to be for me, and then I'd come back really fumed up and angry, and I want to just draw better because I was just looking at their work. It's also humbling, so it's good to remind you what you don't yet know, and how much is left for you to do. But it can be a distraction if you think you can reproduce that style on your own once you're done studying it.
Yeah.
So study it and then leave it alone and come back to it later, because how are you supposed to study it and know and analyze it scientifically if you don't know the fundamentals that that work together to make that style happen? Because every style has fundamentals. Everything has some kind of line or brush efficiency fundamental. Everything has some kind of cube fundamental in it. So it's good to it's good to stay away from it. That's my thoughts on that. But I did take a special break just to study Ghibli and just to study like some Disney stuff. I watched so much Disney, like Sword in the Stone was so inspirational for me, just because of the way they animated the characters and how they kept him looking like Merlin and Arthur, even though it was different animals. I loved that so much. It inspired me so much. So I guess I can't really say completely ignore it and forget it. Just take some time in learning how to rotate a cube that you advance it into a polygon, and then maybe you can start. If I were to give you a technical timeline, then you can start thinking about how you can see that cube in some styles. Yeah.
One person is saying, I didn't improve for a long time because I relied so much on being a copy machine. I couldn't figure out how to do anything without copying it exactly. All right. One advice I could give when it comes to copying using analysis is to break down an image. When I say breaking down, what I mean by that is, okay, let's say you have an image, right? You break them down in components, you could either you could either reproduce the entire illustration and just using values, or uh, you could reproduce the illustration by just drawing the shapes that make the composition of the image. Why breaking down is so important? It's because yeah, an illustration is basically made up of all those components:
Mm-hmm.
value, composition, lighting, and or just the environment itself. Uh, so yes, learning these components is one of the uh, basic advice I could give when it comes to analysis.
Okay, so breaking down is one way to analyze, just piece by piece.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that
Yes.
analyzing in grayscale is better, or analyzing color should be separate from form, or what would be the, like, again, the timeline for how you would break down a style, just so they have a good idea of how to, what kind of relationship they have with their artists, like their
Mm.
inspirational artist work?
I would definitely go for reproducing the image and just using the values, because
Okay.
yeah, I mean, in my case, it's important for me to understand the lighting conditions of the illustration. If I
Mm-hmm.
wanna if I wanna understand the illustration itself, I want to know what makes it tick. And in my case, lighting has a lot to contribute in what makes the visuals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lighting definitely. Like that's what I would study in that piece we have on your showcase, the larger one. I would just
Yeah.
study our lighting, and I would study why that snow. It feels like salt, but I know it's snow, and I just love the way you pulled it off. So that's something that I would study right away. Why I'm getting such a nice reaction from that snow, which is like
Ah,
this
yes,
really cool
and that
relief. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that's the important thing. Ask yourself why this image looks like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's when the analysis parts begin.
That's true. The why factor. Yeah.
Keep asking why. Keep
Yeah.
asking questions. Yeah.
Someone asked
Be
me,
curious.
yeah, yeah, just curiosity. It's like not just going in
I
there
mean,
and then trying to sound like a scientist, but actually having an idea behind what's inspiring you so much. And
uh,
you may go
I
back
mean,
to
you
that
don't have to be a
painting.
scientist,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
you have to have the quality of the scientist of being curious,
Yeah,
asking questions. Because after all, we all know uh, Da Vinci is a scientist, but he's also a painter, right?
yeah, absolutely. He thought about things in more than one way. Someone asks me, uh, will I be reintroducing myself into color soon? Um, Honestly, that's a big question, and the interview is all about Jerome today, so I'm gonna dodge that with the Jerome excuse. No, I won't.
What?
No,
What?
because the interview is about you, so I'm just gonna dodge that question because I'm
Uh,
scared of answering it. But I think one day I'll move. One day, very soon, I'll move into color. A lot of people urge me into color because they like to see color, and I'm not at the moment exploring what people like to see. I'm exploring what I find I lack in my work, which is the volume. I feel like I still have a way to go in making more volume pop. Finding my style in anatomy, finding my style in caricature, and how much detail I want to do, exactly what I want to do. I'm doing it. I'm doing everything I want to do. I'm happy, but
mhm.
there's a part, like I said earlier, about the happy. I'm not happy when it comes to certain parts of my art, like my portfolio. I'm still such a student, and I know it's weird to hear a teacher say that, but it's good to hear a teacher say that. I'm still a learning student, so I feel like me, if I were to have taught myself or have been taught by a master, I think a master, like that master from Kill Bill, I think he would have still not let me touch color, which is why I'm avoiding color. Because I know color is, to
Ah,
me,
I see.
color is easy because I'm always critiquing color and I'm always looking at color. I know what color does, and I know my way around it. But I think my forms and my understanding of how many rules I want to break, I'm in that awkward limbo between how many rules I want to break and how many I want to keep. Yeah. So I feel like I have no business with color, though I know a lot of people want to see it. They hate seeing my grayscale. It's so annoying to them, but that shouldn't be the reason why I rush color. So that's kind of my answer. Thank you, Just Asked. I hope that is a good answer for everyone. Um, yeah, gray first. Is it worth trying to color a grayscale, or should we start with color from the get-go if we want color? What do you think, Jerome? Did you start off with grayscale?
Well, I do form studies, but
Yeah.
I never actually start with grayscale
Mm-hmm.
because it's a case of my very first working experience. I worked in a outsourcing studio.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of concept art, so um, they need results fast. So
Yeah.
I was forced to work in color initially.
Mm-hmm.
That's and from there on, that's basically how it work.
Yeah. I feel like it's part of the reason why your colors are so wonderful. People tend to, even advanced artists, tend to fall into the muddy colors when they're doing grayscale to color, especially because when you're doing grayscale to color, you're at the mercy of Photoshop and its filters, and if you don't know how to use them,
Yes.
you're not going to transfer well.
Uh-huh.
So if you know your way around Photoshop, you understand levels, you understand contrast, you understand all the tools, all the layer modes. Feel free to try it if you feel like it's safe. It's something I would do. I kind of know my way around when the color is being ugly and monochromatic, and when it's the grayscales, and when I should tone down saturation. But um, for a student, I think you should be in halfway. I think you should start off grayscale, apply color, and then continue in color. So you flatten everything. That way you get a bit of both worlds. I feel like there is never enough grayscale for a student because almost always they're depending on some kind of excessive black use or excessive white use, which means one day their colors will be super dodge tool gross saturated, and I want to nip that in the bud as much as possible. Like that's my campaign. Um, so it's kind of like a little bit, in between. Thank you, Insane Burritos. Huningball says copy can help you find a new way to render, but for art you need to render from your own. So it's just like it's like seeing a new way how you could work. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So Jerome, how much longer do you
Oh,
think you can stay up?
I'm still wide awake.
Okay,
Remember, I
okay,
have
good,
a cup
cool.
of coffee over here.
Cause I'm good, I'm good. Just let me know
Yeah, I'm
though if
good.
you get tired. Cause Jerome is what country you're from again?
Philippines.
Philippines?
It's
Philippines, yeah.
5:46 a.m.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for being with us today. It's really,
Yeah, no
really
problem.
fun. This is wonderful.
I have to blame Monster Hunter for this. It fucked up my circadian rhythm.
Oh, right, because Monster Hunter, you bought it, yeah. What do you think
Yeah.
about, like, what do you think about games and what are the games that inspired you? What are some of the biggest games apart from Monster Hunter?
Oh, well, games, huh? Uh,
Yeah.
I guess, uh, uh, I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy back then, and there was a
Mm-hmm.
point in my life where I, the character designs I do are very Tetsuya Nomura-ish,
Mm-hmm.
very FF8, very Kingdom Hearts, something like that.
I love Kingdom
So
Hearts.
yeah, that Final Fantasy was a big part of my artistic journey back then. But then there came Shadow of the Colossus,
Oh, yeah.
Dark Souls, the very high dark fantasy stuff like that.
Yeah. There is a sense of darkness in your drawings. There's definitely like this
Or
like potential to be ghoulish, or like I
oh,
feel like
oh
your
really?
story, yeah, I feel like the stories that you bring from, even though they might be cheerful, they can be for a young adult audience, not just for a children's audience. um, which is part of, I think, something you picked up from the art direction in what is it, Tail and the Mouse game. I forget what it's called, the game that with the art
Uh,
director that worked for
Ghost of a
DreamWorks.
Tale.
Yeah, Ghost of a Tale.
Ghost of a Tale.
It's
Yeah.
very dark, right? It's very gloomy,
Oh
very
yeah,
eerie.
very dark.
Yeah,
It's very secretive Nim-ish.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you're, kind of pulling from that. I think that's, if I were to observe from the outside, I think you definitely have some of that dark fantasy in there. So you can see the inspiration. Let's see what other. How do you guys feel about all these
Oh
mega
wait.
popular? Go ahead.
Ah, um, a while back you were talking about your awkward phase, with regards to style and color.
Mm-hmm.
In your case, yeah.
Oh, you want me to continue?
Hmm. Um.
Or did you want to add to it?
Hmm. Yeah, I want to add something.
Sure, go ahead.
I would say, doing client work actually helps you, uh,
Mm-hmm.
helps you discovery discover your style, or at least that's one of the ways uh, to find out, to bring that style out, because um, having, of course, if you're gonna work for money,
Mm-hmm.
it's usually timed. There's time pressure, and there's this thing where I have to make sure this image is worth the money that my client is paying for.
Mm-hmm. That's so stressful. I
So
remember that from my time freelancing.
yeah, that situation, which brings you out of your comfort zone, just pulls out a lot of aspects in your art that you don't know exists.
Yeah.
That's one. I believe that's one of the ways that brought out my style, because that's the kind of environment I worked in when I graduated.
You mean like a good sort of pressure, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
blooming
the
under
good sort of
pressure.
pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the good
Okay.
sort of pressure, and being surrounded by artists,
Oh
by
yeah.
professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always motivating and humbling. And it's really good to stay humble. Being humble is part of accepting critique. So that's a big lesson. What was it like accepting critique for you? Were you ever exposed
Oh,
to
back
critique?
then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Early on, high school. I didn't take critiques well. I Yeah, I tend to
Me
give a lot of
too.
excuses. No, but this is my style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is my style. I did this
uh,
on purpose. It's
yeah.
just too.
Yeah, I did this on purpose, or he looks that way.
Yeah, I meant for him to look like that.
I
The
meant
good
for it
old
to look
days,
that.
yeah. That's so good.
But
Someone asks you. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
uh, uh the time the moment where I learned to take critiques was when I discovered the concept art forums, conceptart.org.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first. That was my first exposure
To
to
critique.
a forum that's dedicated to art critics.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I learned a lot by posting there. I walked out of my comfort zone, tried to face my fears in realizing that my art has a lot of ways to go, and just
Yeah.
posted there. And I was actually very grateful, because uh, having input, not just not just from the people you know, but the people you don't know, is very valuable, because
Yeah.
each person has varying degrees of how much they understand fundamentals, or how they see how they see your interpretations of things.
Yeah. Totally. The varying degrees of how much they understand the fundamental, and the way they
Yeah,
describe it to you is
yeah.
different each time, and it's a different opportunity for you to reintroduce yourself to the fundamental all over again.
Mhm.
So that's why I say to some people, don't just watch me, because the way I repeat myself in my own vocabulary, but watching others describe the same fundamental could be eye opening for you. Um, so yeah, that's totally I like hearing that. I was worried I would bring
Well,
on an artist
sometimes, yeah.
who would kind of say, "Oh, you don't need that. Oh, I managed to get good," by not following any of the rules. But I'm so happy you're one of the artists that says, "Oh no, I followed the rules and I did this," and that's why I'm here, because I really like them having a good example. Someone says, "How do you
Someone's
guys
asking, what's
feel about all these mega popular artists on YouTube who haven't took the time to practice or study art, yet make a living off symbolic eyes and flat characters?" That's a really good question.
what's super popular artists?
So what do you
Because
mean by super popular? Yeah.
because the artists I watch, the artists in YouTube I watch are industry veterans.
Mm-hmm.
So the person might be referring to some specific group of artists.
I think he's referring to those like anime niche artists who are super popular.
Uh-huh.
Um, I can't name any names. I'm not gonna be the one who names any names. But
Yeah,
maybe they,
I
yeah,
can't name any names either.
yeah. So
I
they're
can't name any
gonna,
names either because I don't know. Hmm.
so they're
Well,
we're gonna wait for them to give us examples. Yeah, because that's a very
yeah,
broad
sure.
question.
But
Yeah.
then again, it's really up to them it's really up to them uh, with what they want to do.
Mhm.
It's up to them whether they want to improve or not. But yeah, there's a sort of frustration that I get when they earn a lot of money with even though they don't put uh, they don't exert
Apply
as
themselves.
much
Yeah.
effort
Yeah.
as other artists working in this industry. But thing is, that's the nature of YouTube,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's an enabler. You just find your niche and then you kind of just keep doing your thing. You don't have to
Uh-huh.
have the validation of an external group of people that assess you, you apply to them, and they accept you, and therefore you are now crowned as talented. It's now a crowd pleasing um, way of validating your skill level. So you don't actually have to go through an application or have an appropriate type of portfolio, and that's, yeah, the nature of YouTube. You're right.
Mm. Someone's asking, what's the art scene like in the Philippines? Is there a lot of work, or does the
Ooh.
workplace to do international jobs? Um, after quitting my day job, I've done nothing but do international jobs. So the only thing I could give an opinion about with regards to the art scene in the Philippines is there is a strong, thriving independent comic scene over here.
Ooh.
Uh, like like every year we have, I think, three Comic Cons that happen.
Oh, wow. I feel like the
Uh,
Philippines is like the Renaissance, the place to go to for the revolution of art today. Because
oh,
you know how like in the Renaissance, the actual Renaissance, there you went to Paris, everything was okay, everyone was allowed to flourish. I think that's what it's starting to look like over there.
mm,
Things are so much more available.
Renaissance.
Yeah.
But yeah, the art scene these days are a lot better
Mhm.
than it was a few years ago. I'm talking about the modern industry of art.
Yeah.
But of
Games
course we
and
have our but of course there's a section of the in the Philippines where there's these national artists
mhm.
known for uh, doing um, doing paintings that usually tackle history or
Oh, okay.
well, actually I can't give an educated opinion on that. But what I have noticed is they tend to have their own niche actually,
Mhm.
and when that niche clicks to the market, to the masses, um, well, they don't necessarily become a national artist, but uh, what's a good example?
Like
When I say
the study of the
national
human
artist,
condition or something, or they're history or like a
Yeah, something like
celebrated
that.
artist. Yeah, there's a couple
The
of them on.
culture.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
couple
yeah,
of them on
yeah.
Instagram, like Chinese artists, which are so
Hmm.
amazing, and they're
Yes, those ones.
yeah, they're like known across Asia because they're so good. They're like a modern day Da Vinci over there or Raphael or
Hmm.
something. Like if they die, the
Uh-huh.
world will know about it because they're so good. And
Yeah.
they're usually very
So you know what?
old. Yeah,
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying, right?
yeah,
Uh, there's a group of artists that work on the industry, and there's that other group of artists that are known uh for the niche they do, right?
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, I'm the most humble artist there is, maybe of all time. Maybe people are saying, many people are saying it. That's hilarious. Um, oh, so people are saying as an example for those YouTube artists, Jazza, Bailey J, Ross Tran. What do you think about Sakimi Chan? Um, what do you think about that? About those artists? I mean,
Hmm.
if you feel like
Uh,
it's a territory you don't want to jump into or be quoted on, that's okay. I understand.
Well, okay, I'm looking at the work of Ross Trent. Um, I could say there's a lot of experience going uh, behind all the images he does. The thing is, he has his niche,
Yep.
and if he finds it to be a successful endeavor, it's basically his choice whether he wants uh, to 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 grow in that space or grow out of it.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Do you think students should be following his work or work like his as an example?
Oh,
That's the question, you know.
sorry. If you're a learning student, like I said, it's you're going to develop more often than not, you're going to develop bad habits when you're when you're uh, a learning student, and you look at you look at uh, someone's style religiously and
Yeah.
try to copy it. Eventually, you'll develop a habit in the mistakes of whatever fundamental mistakes this artist has. You might develop a habit of outputting it
Yeah.
in your own.
I agree.
So, but if if you want to look at artists as inspiration when you're just starting, I would definitely suggest the old masters.
Yeah. It's a good way to figure your way around how much realism you need, how much realism you think you need, and how much how much you should have, and how much you want to
Yeah.
have. Because how much you want to have isn't really a healthy amount. Right? You always want less realism than you need. Realism is something you need to force yourself into because that's what's going to make your work make people say, "Wow."
Mhm.
So doing master studies, and it doesn't have to be an old master. It can be someone really modern, but also really,
Mhm.
really skilled. There's someone that I adore from a distance. I am his number one fan. His name is Mark
Yeah.
Simonetti. And he
Mark.
hurts. He hurts. He actually physically, it hurts to watch his work. But my God, he's so good. He's like a book cover master. Everyone goes to him for their book covers. Um, and his
Yeah. Can you
work
show me?
is just, here, I'll link it to you. His work is just amazing and it makes me pained. Let me see if I can even show people. So this is one of his most recent pieces. I'm not even sure if you guys can see this. You're just going to have to go to his page. Here's the Instagram. Yeah. He does these things with environments and with thumbnails, like the dark foreground, light background, and then control over contrast. It's so inspirational because he's has a lot of control over his character art and his environment art, and he's well into his career, of course. but it's still something I aim towards, and it's something I would study one day. It's a person that I would study, and I envy his work. I think he's wonderful. There's also Nick Panimsky, I think, another one. Panimsky, I've talked about him before, and I don't. Panimsky. Oops. Nick Pum, yeah. There we go. So he's another example of an amazing artist that I would study. And he has
Nick
some major,
Pansky.
he has some amazing stylistic choices. But again, you don't have to always, you compare this work to the work of the artists we just discovered, they floor them. These guys are blowing everyone out of the water. And this is the type of person you should be aspiring to paint like, because his mistakes are not even mistakes anymore. Whereas the artists we discussed earlier, the YouTube artists, those are mistakes, you know. I would even go to the lengths of calling them beginner mistakes, you know. So, yeah.
I saw this in ArtStation. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's just so good.
Yeah, I follow this guy.
Yeah, he's really, really good. He's one of my favorite. My favorite piece of his, I mentioned it before, was the conductor on the train. This is some like quality level work. I don't know if you guys can even see that. This is something I would study. So, feel the rage, the sighs. I hear them. Feel the rage and frustration. When will I be like this? Because this is what you're supposed to feel when you look at your aspiring artist, the artist that you aspire to be like. So, you should always aim high, even if you don't understand, even if they're way out of your level. Like, we're talking like, I don't know how to describe it. We're talking like, I don't know if anyone watches One Piece, but like season 1 Luffy compared to like the latest season Luffy, okay? After he learned all his moves and after he's just unstoppable. Even if the artist is that far away from you, unstoppable, amazing, high level, fully formed, final form, kind of mega, still study him. Because you're going to pick up something. One thing or another, you're still going to pick them up. And we're talking about master studies. We're not talking about, like, trying to paint masterpieces. Not at all. Don't try to do masterpieces. Study. This is all form here. The hand, the cube, everything is form. But still, I recommend you guys aim higher. That's all I'm saying. Aim higher. Because there are people to aim at. People to aim to be like. And they're all over these ArtStation, Instagram, and just look for them. Don't stay in one idiotic niche that is fun to look at, fun to paint, commercially pleasing, but in such a small little environment that it's not really as commercially pleasing as you originally thought it was. And if you were to see that work in 5 years, you'd think, wow, that I can't believe I ever, aspired to be like that. The quality is so low compared to what I could have been aspired like, and God knows where I'd be if I had aimed higher.
I love that cube.
Yeah, I know.
Whatever that is.
I just love it. Reflective light source, because he used the light of the grain on the cube because it's reflective. So it's not a lighter orange. It's just the green. This green, that's just green on the top. Again, that's how you study. It's just scientifically analyzing where the sources of all the colors are coming from. Look at the reflectivity of the orange. This is from Dune. The reflectivity of the orange underneath. Aim higher, guys. I promise you it'll pay off. Now I'll look at my work after that and I'm just like, why am I here? Fuck this. I should just go fucking be an engineer or something. It's not too late. I should go into medicine. I can't do this anymore. You gotta aim high though.
Back then I had to deal with an artist where he always feels depressed and unmotivated to move because I figured out that he tends to have an expectation, a solid expectation, and when he doesn't meet that expectation, that's when he gives up.
Wow.
The one thing I told him is just to not have expectations, but just to keep moving up. Because when you fall, I mean, the only way is up, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's good advice. Yeah.
I gave him an option whether if you fall down, you could either keep being down there or stand up.
That's true.
Oh,
And
also, I would like to apologize if I keep stumbling because I tend to stumble when I'm explaining something while thinking.
oh, not at all. It's really easy to follow your train of thought. Not at
Yeah,
all. Yeah.
yeah.
You're a great teacher, and your English is great.
Oh, thank you. I
um,
was exposed to English programming at a very young age.
yeah, I was gonna ask, where'd you learn your English? It's just so good. um, I'm a software engineer now. I'm joking. I was joking. I was trying to insult you. I just wanted to say like I should give up on art compared to Mark Simonetty or Nick Philipsky. um, James Gurney is a modern master. I would say he's one of them. Yeah. Um, Wei Feng. Oh yeah, I think Wei Feng is one of the people I copied. Yes, he does the game art for Dishonored. Yeah.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah.
That
The
guy? Oh wow.
not James Gurney. Uh, Mark
Oh, of
Simonetti.
course not.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Mark
yeah.
Simonetty. Yeah.
yeah, Mark
Oh,
Simonetti.
amazing.
Yeah. um. Yeah. Let me see if there's any more questions. Um. I don't see the issue with Jazza. He does cartooning. I don't support learning from him, but people really look down on him. He enjoys doing cartoons and is very good at it. I don't think he deliver himself as a teacher, or does he say like today we're going to be talking about like hands or form or something like that? I mean, if he doesn't take on the professorial attitude, there's no reason why people should be judging him as a teacher. He's just an artist that's doing what he loves on YouTube. I've never watched a single one of his videos, so I don't know, but that's from what I'm seeing on this, um, on the from the question. Okay, someone asked you,
Yeah.
Istebrak, a question. How does Jerome figure out what to do with a gesture? How does he come up with a gesture that's both characteristic and natural? So,
Mm.
yeah.
Characteristic and natural. Well, first to explain the natural part, I actually learned that from you. Uh,
Oh.
it's a case of it's an anatomy case actually. You remember your lesson about uh, the 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 meat sticks?
Oh yeah, the kebab
Yeah,
stick. Yeah.
yeah. The kebab sticks. That's one way I make sure the gestures I do to uh look natural,
Mhm.
and the other is in terms of characters being full of character. Uh, I did comics back then, so that contributed to the gestures I do. Comics and cartoon illustrations too.
Mhm.
I remember back then I said that I wanted to break into the mainstream comic book industry, so I did a lot of style exploration. Uh, I tend to get so dynamic with drawings of Spider-Man and those highly exaggerated limbs, fingers,
Mhm.
uh, and the ones you see in very stylized comics.
Mhm.
Hang on, I know an artist who wrote that.
One of the
He's one of
top.
the artists I look at. Not necessarily, but wait, hang on. What's his name again? Uh, he's in DeviantArt, but I can't remember his name. Wait.
Cries in Grayscale. Someone was crying in Grayscale. Oh yeah,
Crying.
Elgin Fluffer. I remember
Oh,
Elgin Fluffer. Fle-
Agon
Flebber.
Flager, yeah.
Elgin Plefger. Fleb. Oh my gosh. I can't say it. It's
Okay,
really good.
this artist. Um, Here.
Oh yeah, Mark Curley. I use
Oh, I can't
Saber.
post the link.
Oh,
Hang
you can
on.
post it here. I'll put it up.
Yeah, sure.
Cheeks. I know Cheeks. I love him. I love his
Ah,
work. Yeah.
yeah, that's one of the artists I tried copying style-wise when I
Hmm.
was doing a lot of exploration for
Oh, the
comics.
big chunky fingers. Yeah, yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it still kind of shows
Mhm. Yeah.
in certain situations.
Yeah. I see. I'm not a fan of artists, YouTubers who say things like, "This is the only way to draw this." I've said that a couple times though. Well, I said that a couple like, "This is the only way to study this." I think I've done that. But I don't think I've ever said this is like the only way to draw this hand or something. I
Of
might be
course
a
not.
complete
Everything's open to
hypocrite.
interpretation.
Yeah. I hope I'm not being a hypocrite right now. There is this one YouTube channel with really good tutorials, Marco Bucci.
Oh yeah, God,
Yeah,
Marco Bucci.
yeah. And Bob Ross was called. Yeah. Uh, um,
Marco Bucci, I learned a lot from that guy.
I used to watch Mark, but his style doesn't click with me much anymore. Yeah, a lot of people used to watch Mark Curley. I think a lot of people still do, especially those manga artists. There's still a massive niche for manga artists on YouTube. Um,
Which artist?
Mark Curley.
Oh, I don't know that one. Mark
He
Curry.
does a manga art, Steven's Ghost or something.
Mhm.
Some like pretty. He was pretty popular back when YouTube was pretty early in its art years. Like he was really popular back then. I
Ah,
think
yeah.
he was the first artist to ever hit 1 million, or I think he still has the
Oh,
highest number of
that's amazing.
subscribers or something. Yeah, he's great.
Hmm. Well, it's a good thing he hasn't died down because I've seen a couple of YouTube channels that
Fall apart.
uh,
Yeah,
fall apart after having such great success in the beginning.
it's unfortunate,
Someone's
but it happens.
yeah, someone's asking, what would you say about people who want to make a living doing art they love and selling it? Is that considered lazy or far-fetched? Selling it.
Would
Well,
you
no,
recommend
it's definitely
freelancer?
not lazy.
Mm-hmm.
What are kind of freelance commissions? Hmm. Well, I would say my personal bias goes to freelance because I have my own time, my own schedules. Uh, since and I have no art director or boss behind me saying no, no, move this thing over here,
I know.
move
Oh my
this thing over
gosh.
here. Yeah, yeah, I know. So it puts a lot of pressure off my shoulder being a freelance. But no, it's definitely not lazy because a freelance demands a lot of your time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not lazy, but immensely difficult, in fact. Because first of all, you have to learn how to budget your time. You can't get swamped by all the work you want to do. You can't. I mean, you can't just accept offers uh, that that come. I mean, it's good to have offers, but back then I made the mistake of accepting too much offers, too much jobs
Mm-hmm.
that first of all the quality of the work I did back then suffered a lot because of it, and uh, my health suffered because of it,
Oh no.
and another burnout ensued because of it. So
Yeah.
freelance is actually very much a balancing act between your time and your work time.
That's true. One thing about freelance that I didn't like was dealing with other people's projects and having to give a shit about other people's ideas. But one thing that I would
Mm-hmm.
recommend about it is the field experience and learning how to be a people person and how to talk to people and how to negotiate, how to price your work.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you would
Oh,
never have sketched that if it hadn't been for that job. So it's like an opportunity to study this one thing you'd never have studied in a million years because you would never done it, and God only knows how it would have improved your work. So
mm-hmm.
those are all ways that I kind of made sense of my years in freelance. And it paid the bills. And it was
Yeah.
nice kind of winning competitively against everyone else who was applying for jobs, especially on DeviantArt, which has a massive market for freelancing. It was nice getting all the
Oh yeah.
jobs. But
That's where it started, even or
yeah, me too. So like that's nice. I would recommend it, but I don't know what the atmosphere is like now, and I don't know what other websites are now the leading in bulletins for freelance jobs. So I wouldn't know where to begin in recommending how you would explore it, but definitely start locally if you want to. And people that you know, go to like community centers, put up your little thing on the bulletin, your notice. That's one way to do it. I started that in my mosque. We were it's like church, but you draw like religious themes for people and because the kids always needed coloring stuff to color while the priest was talking, so they assigned me to draw a bunch of stuff for them, of like legendary scenes from the Quran and stuff. That's where I first did my first couple jobs. Then I went online and started doing more jobs like that, which was really really great for me. So yeah, I always recommend it if you want to improve really, really fast. No, I agree. I think you're really balanced, Istebrak. You're honest and level with people about realities of gender norms and beauty, but you allow the freedom to be themselves. Thank you, Pumpkiki. I mean, I should be quiet. I have an art channel and I'm still a beginner, but I know how to learn and I show how to learn, and it's amazing to grow in my community. I tell everyone, go to Ista. Aw, thank you. That's so
oh, how
sweet.
sweet.
I know. Um,
one of
mm-hmm.
one of the hardest things I had to deal with working freelance is learning how to price my very first commission.
Yeah, I remember
There's that fear of, hey, this might be too high.
that.
This-
Am I worth this?
the client might, yeah, the client might end up
Leaving me?
abandoning
I,
abandoning me. And
I
actually,
remember that.
actually, until now, I still can't give proper advice with that.
Yeah.
Because
What I
yeah,
do is
it's
aim
definitely
high.
hard.
No, yeah. What I say when people ask me is aim high. Let's say you were doing a book cover. The book cover is pretty rendered. It's not just a font and some symbolic images. It's a full-on illustration. I say aim high and find what the industry standard is. Show that go lowball the industry standard if you can. It's not good because what that will do is lowball everyone and you'll build a norm. But you got to get a job. So lowball whenever you can based off the industry standard, but highball so that you can get the most out of your client. That's what I used to do. So for book covers back then, book covers sold commercially were $1,000 a minimum. So I would say, okay, I'll do this book cover for you for $400. And they would say, okay. And I'd be like, great, this is all good. Let's go do this. And then they would say, oh, I'm sorry. All I have is $350. I'd be like, cool, let's go. Let's do it. I don't mind $50, whatever. I'll make it another place. If they said all I have is $70, I'd be like, that is way lower than the industry standard. That's like character design sheet, or like a simple avatar or something for your game or an item concept. So I wouldn't ever do that. So I kind of like everyone who tries to give advice about how to price never says numbers. So like they're not really giving actual advice. So I've started to actually give advice. So, $1,000 for if you're well into your skill level and you have really good examples of book covers, go for 1,000 for book covers. And then if you're like an amazing artist that everyone knows, you can ask as much as you want. You get artists that approach you, writers that approach you that say name your price. You can go ahead and say 3,000 and they'll give you 3,000. But for us, everyone else who's normal, who isn't an art god, you can just go for the hundreds with book covers. $100 or less for single illustrations with minimal color. Anything high rendered should be way over 100 or 150 US dollars, I'm saying. Those are all really good places to start when it comes to pricing. Proco. Any other must-follow artists on YouTube? Do you have any other must-follow artists on
Uh,
YouTube?
yeah, sure. I'll check my subscription list. It's all there.
Okay.
Oh, the first thing, the first user it came out in my subscription is Istebrak. Yeah, go follow her.
Oh, come on. They're asking for actual artists, not she
Oh,
beasts.
come on. Hang on. Oh God, I have a lot of subscriptions. I can't find one. I need to find.
I subscribe to like non-art stuff because in order for me to run a channel, I have to be like an island so that I can focus on what I'm offering because people are subscribing to me and what I do, and I can't let me try to be like someone else. And I'm scared that if I watch another, another artist on YouTube with their own channel, I'll try to mimic or compete. I'm very competitive. I'm extremely competitive. So for me to watch other artists is for me to kind of lose my zone, and I want to honor those who subscribe to me. So I just make myself an island. So people who I subscribe to are like physical hobbies, like you mentioned earlier. Like I really like construction, so I have like a bunch of channels on how to like refurbish a table, how to like apply flooring. I feel like that's some sort of creative outlet for me that I get to go to turn off my brain. So be very careful with subscribing to too many art channels. Jerome is going to give us a list of his, but be very, very careful, like who you follow. Make sure they're not coming from like completely sporadic art styles. Everyone is different. You got this guy and this guy and this girl. Make sure you find a neighborhood that you can go back to and a way for you to take a break. Don't overwhelm yourself with too much art knowledge. It's really, really dangerous for you to do that to yourself. So choose one group and then kind of become an island of study. And one thing that's a danger is all these channels have their own style, which is going to make you feel very self-conscious about the fact that you don't have a style. That's my advice on the matter. So if you have a list to share about who you follow and stuff.
Okay.
I'm really
Got the links?
these animals. Oh, the links. Oh, okay. So he subscribes to Alfonso Dunn. I love Alfonso Dunn. I used
I love
to
his
watch
ink work.
him. I love his stuff. Yeah. I love his hands.
Chris Oatley.
Yeah, Chris Oatley.
Yeah.
Subscribe to him. Oh, network connection, whatever. For some reason that didn't load. I think it's my internet. Nope. Okay, so YouTube, Chris Oatley, this dude, and we've got Bobby Choi. I actually saw him one day back when he did the life drawings in the TTC downtown Toronto train stations. He used to gather with people and they used to all draw together way back, like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. My friend would sneak me in.
Oh, you got to work with him.
Yeah, and it was really, really
awesome.
fun. I didn't work with him. No, I met him. I saw him. But he taught in Sheridan for a while. I don't know if he still teaches in Sheridan, but he's from Toronto, my hometown. I just need filler for when Istebrak isn't live. I think you guys are just teasing me now. Who is this Istebrak? Weird name. There is Casey Golden. It is special. And here it is. So unique. It's not about skill and realism. It's her skill and story, idea, graphic art. Yeah. So there's just some really, really good ideas. So I would do a Chris Oatley plus Alfonso Dunn combo. And I would do an Alfonso Dunn plus like Proco combo. I wouldn't try to do everybody. I wouldn't try to watch like 10 videos of different channels a week and kind of confuse yourself or rock yourself, into an early art grave. But, Jerome, you might disagree with me. You might say that it's good to keep yourself exposed to everything. So what do you think about subscribing to too many art channels at once?
Initially I thought that. I exposed myself to a lot of knowledgeable artists, but like I said, because I did that, I ended up with what I said before, knowledge paralysis.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually not watching any of uh, majority of the artists I'm subscribed to,
Mhm.
save for Alfonso Dunn, Bobby Chu, and your channel, of course.
Mhm.
And
Stop.
uh, because like I said, I need to process that knowledge
Yeah.
and see what I could output.
Mhm.
See what I could output using that knowledge. And here's another artist I'd like to share. He's more of the mindset type of artist.
Mhm.
Yeah,
What do you mean by
Fallen CK.
mindset? Like a
Um,
motivational speaker?
like motivation, discipline, how much is too much when it comes to grinding studies, uh, that kind of
Mhm.
psychological stuff.
I see. He seems like an honest fella. I might give him a watch. Isn't he the one that said, oh yeah, this is the thumbnail I remember. Yeah, 9 months ago. This is a pretty
Uh-huh.
popular video when it came out. Quitting my job to study art 2 months later and what that
Ah, yeah,
taught.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that one.
I remember that video.
Mhm.
So, the question of the evening before we close up, which isn't right away,
Mhm.
but if you guys were to critique us, what would you say about our work today? What would you give us as critique for what you think we did, our process, and where we would go? What we should improve on? So we are not. Prepare yourself, Jerome.
Hang on,
I think I
sorry.
need an antacid.
um,
So people are gonna
there,
critique us.
there,
Yeah.
sure, no
Yeah.
problem. I welcome it.
Okay, I'm getting ready. You'd think I'd be like more prepared for this because I'm destroying people's art all day long. I think they're gonna come back with like a vengeance for me. It's gonna be personal. um, I
Yeah, so
exclusively
lay down all
follow.
the critiques, please.
Yeah. I exclusively follow Istebrak and have improved like never before. Safe to say she's the best. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm not qualified to critique you guys. Pressure's on. Istebrak's drawing doesn't feel balanced. Okay, what do you mean? You need to improve your lines. I think you need to be more loose with your sketches. You control Z every line. I see, yeah. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. I don't think I have the balls to try that. I don't think I have I'm a perfectionist, like a type A. I don't know if I even have it in my DNA not to try to pull off a perfect line. But yeah, I won't refute your critique. I'm just going to listen to it. Proceed with caution.
I
um,
miss the Istebrak memes.
I don't know if there's more memes in our Discord channel. Let me see if I can find some. We can close off with some memes. Meme submission. This is gonna be hilarious. Mr. not exactly a critique, but I don't think that lines in an illustration are inherently bad. Mm-hmm. The otter's legs don't feel like they fit the torso, like the otter's leaning sideways with scoliosis. Um, yeah, I kind of wanted to make it feel like he's just about to sneak up on someone and stab him in the dark. I really didn't think this gesture through. I was too busy trying to copy Jerome's otter.
um, Daniel the artist said, I should try some more gesture in my character designs. Daniel, what do you mean by adding more gesture to my character designs? I'd like to know.
Well, character designs have they're standing. They're supposed to be standing, so you're not really allowed to have gesture. I think what he means is like just make them move around more.
Uh, I guess that goes more into this study aspect of the design. studying what kind of movements this particular design is made to do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I'd like to add that the very first video of Istebrak I saw was the why your drawing sucks.
Yeah.
And after seeing that video, I spread that video among my artist friends because, yeah, that video was a good wake-up call for me.
I'm happy you think so. It's an honor. Your otters look like the possums from the Ice Age. Oh, right. Yeah, they do. I didn't look up enough references. I still have this mouse dude I didn't work on. I only drew 3. What? I need to work on how fast I sketch. I think I get caught with like costume. I really don't know what to do with costume. That's quite a big one for me.
Someone said, Jerome, the forced subsurface carrying confuses me, to be honest. Then again, I overanalyze light direction so much. I tend to force a lot of subsurface carrying because just because it looks good.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one rule I always break.
Yeah, we talked about like how you consciously break it on purpose. As long as you're conscious of it.
Nika Trasco said, Jerome, you should draw humans sometimes. Actually, the reason I barely draw human characters is because much of the big projects I get involve a lot of animal characters.
Yeah.
So I really don't get that much time outside of work to do human studies. But yeah, I could definitely say do several human body studies, particularly the face, the human face. In fact, I did the 14-day portrait challenge back then. Yeah.
Were you still doing it, or are you did you do it before and you stopped?
Yeah, I'm still.
Oh, you're still doing it. Okay.
Yeah. Oh no. I completed my first 14-day challenge, and I started my second round of it today. This week, I think.
Awesome! Congrats.
Yeah.
If you want a critique, just let me know when it could possibly happen.
Oh yeah, sure.
There is an artist on Instagram that could help with your line work. His lines are like form. His name is Ediz Khan. Just watching him paint is okay. We'll take a look at that. So, are we ready for some memes? Okay. So, can anyone relate? I'll protect you until you're ready. Poser. Cinema 4D. I'll keep you warm until you're ready. I'll carry you until you're ready. Maya. Blender. Fly, bitch. That's very funny. Oh, some of these are like inside jokes. This is something I critique. Do I really do this? This piece is beautiful, but everything is wrong with it. I don't actually do this, do I? Oh, this is pertaining to our last challenge. Did you happen to see that challenge, the ancient weapon design?
Yeah, I saw the final illustrations.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty damn good.
So let me remind everyone before I forget, please vote for the winner because I put the winners up on our community wall. So go to istebrak.com and go to the community wall with pressing the little Google Plus icon will take you directly there. And make sure you join, read the rules, and vote on who you think the winner should be. I don't know how to turn the votes off on public. They're still on public, but yeah, please vote, you guys. It's really, really important for you guys to vote so that the winner can, win. And then we have, let's look at another one. Would you ever join one of our challenges, Jerome?
what was the challenge I joined the post-apocalyptic children challenge.
Oh right. Which submission was that?
It's in my art station. Hang on. Here it is.
Post-apocalyptic. So did you do the robot or the
Yeah. Did the robot kid.
Oh my god, this is so good. Let me oh I need to figure out how I'm showing these links so that look at this. I love this.
Oh, thank you.
I love your use of color. It's so well done. I love the feet. I love the shadow. That looks full on 3-dimensional.
The one thing I enjoyed in this in designing this character is um, that painted on red eyebrows on his goggles.
Oh, I see.
So initially, yeah, since these were companions for children, they were initially supposed to be gentle and
Yeah.
have a positive disposition. And since they're surviving in a post-apocalyptic environment, uh, he had to think of a way to look menacing and intimidating. So so he painted on an angry expression on his goggles.
I love that. I love how you put a story behind it. I can see why like you're moving so forward in the field. I like something like that would never have been something I think of. I envy that for me, knock on wood. But I would never have thought to do that. I would have just made him angry instead of applying that external, narrative source that would have been. No professionals allowed. Neckbeards only in our Discord. Subtle advertisement. Sorry, I'm going to recap that because I think I didn't show it properly on the screen. Go to istebrak.com and click on the Google Plus icon. Join and vote. This is the vote for the 5 submissions that I felt represented the challenge the best. They have their own unique approach. They've pretty much followed all the rules as much as possible. And yeah, it's I started it before it was hidden. Let's see some more memes. Me and I already finished. I said what Vanessa says it needs to be in color. Let's see, phrase being typed over and over in the chat. Oh, this is the write it back to me thing. Me when I mute the live stream and I see one phrase being typed over and over in the chat. Why would you mute the live stream? This is so wrong. Oh, this is beautiful. This is not one of our memes, just a general meme. Working with music, working while listening to Lord of the Rings original soundtrack. That's so funny. Or Game of Thrones. By the way, do you listen to music? What kind of music do you listen to when you draw?
I'm sorry, you kind of caught up there.
Oh, did I? I said, what kind of music do you listen to when you draw?
Music?
Yeah, like soundtracks.
Music?
Yeah.
Oh, most of the time I listen to video game music.
So like what kind of video games? Like soundtracks, right?
Yeah, soundtracks.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what genre it is. It just has to come from a video game I like.
Yeah. The one that inspired me the most is Shadow of the Colossus when I was younger. I would leave Shadow of the Colossus on the PS2 and just let it play until I, just keep playing that intro song on the waiting screen. That's before I had a CD player and had money to buy the CD. It was really, really funny. Hey, this is not fair. Istebrak, blocking in with soft brush is ridiculous. Also, Istebrak. Okay. This is not blocking in. I was just doing some field tests, alright? This is the stupid one. This is the clown, right? That's not fair. Sorry, Jerome, you were gonna say something? So you think contemporary art is shit, right? So you think contemporary art is shit, right? Tell me more about your fascinating fruit and landscape painting. uh,
Um, okay, Chavirum said the rat's ears has subsurface scarring, but doesn't take into account there's an object behind it that should block light. Oh yeah. Like I said, I like breaking the rules when it comes to subsurface scattering. But yeah, thanks for noticing.
I don't see it much as a problem. Maybe he's like standing under a shadow and his ear breached the shadow, and it's just out there hanging out with the light, and he's kind of like under a shadow of a tree looking up. Subsurface scattering means silhouette light sometimes, so you might not always be in a silhouette, especially if you're in a shadow neighborhood. So you can cheat when it comes to ears and anything that is outside of the body in an orbit. Another meme, Ista does a perfect lasso in Photoshop and it's gone. That's so funny. Because you have no stress. You have no idea how stressful it is. How stressful it used to be finding lassos for you guys. Because I can't ask for PSDs. That would just take forever. Ista, I have shit health and need to rest. Also, Ista, nah, stay up to 3 a.m. doing after hours. Well, we're having a lot of fun doing early after hours, so we might just keep following this format. Thank you so much, Jerome, for hanging out with us. It's been so awesome watching you work. I admire your work so much. And for you to even have said that any part of my teaching has helped you or anything like that, it's such an honor to me. It's so humbling to me, and I just wanted to show everyone your work and have you talk to them and make like common ground between students and professionals. And I really can't thank you enough for coming in today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me initially.
Of course.
First of all, it's it's a huge honor for me to stream with you because
thank you.
I also look up to you as a teacher.
Oh, thank you so
as
much.
one of my best teachers in this since last year actually.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet. I hope I continue to provide you with what you need with your art. And I think you're a wonderful teacher. I think you really know how to articulate your thoughts. I really recommend you start a channel if you haven't already, and just talk about your process. I think a lot of people will agree that they love listening to you, and your words, your vocabulary is so fresh and so new, and you're discussing the same old fundamentals, but you make them new all over again with the way you talk about them. I think you have such a beautiful hold over your style, and it has a nice, I think it's like going places because it's got a nice grounding force of fundamentals, but it's so playful. It's so much fun to watch, so much fun to look at, and your process is so recursive and back and forth and loose, and that's what we all really need to learn to do with our galleries and our portfolios. So keep up your spirit. I love the spirit in your art, and I'd love to have you by again if we try this again, just to like a nice chill sketch session. I hope next time
sure.
there's some music that we can play that we can both hear. I'm not sure how we could do that. Maybe we could have like the same theme that we're drawing. That would be really, really fun.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you everyone for joining. I will be uploading this as a video after we close the stream. Don't forget to go to the community and vote. And if you guys like this video, just subscribe. And I will put all of Jerome's gallery links and everything in the description box. Thanks everyone for joining. Bye. Say bye,
wait,
Jerome.
Istebrak.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I almost forgot. I actually have a YouTube channel.
Oh, you do? Go ahead, pitch it.
Hang on. I'll give the link. I have a couple of videos in it, but those aren't tutorial videos or anything. Just time-lapse videos of my work.
Oh, nice. I'd love to watch those. Those are some really, I love watching the process. Just seeing how, where the point where everything started to look amazing. I love finding that.
But these are incredibly old. I haven't touched my channel for, I think, 3 years.
So the channel is Jerome Jacinto. Find that and subscribe and stay subscribed, and hopefully it'll give you like motivation to keep posting all your process. I think that's really, really cool. Just, keep it up for your audience. You'll build an audience. I think your niche is so specific that you're definitely going to draw in people, especially if you're related to games. People love finding the artists behind games. Yeah, so thanks again. Thanks again for joining. I'll see you guys on our critique hour, or maybe another after hours that I might do soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye. Say bye, Jerome.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.